Good morning, everyone. Very happy to see you all today. I'm Fabian, the CEO and founder of CLICKTRUST Group, for those of you who don't know me. Just a quick show of hands, who was here in September for the same event? You're all going to see the same slides. No, I'm joking. In September, we presented you a vision of our view towards, implementing AI, understanding it. We presented the maturity matrix as well, which exactly 6 people downloaded after the event. So thank you to those 6 people. Hope you had a really good time with it. Today, we're a lot further, and we're going to be showing you practical cases, a bit of inspiration as well, but mostly practical cases 9 months down the road. We're going to have a lot of presentations today from different people from CLICKTRUST, also from Google. And the first person that I would like to present on stage today is Corinne from Google, who is the agency lead at Google and who has been supporting us in a very good way for the last couple of years. So please welcome Corinne to the stage.
Well, good morning. Apparently, we're going through the agenda a bit later on. A really good morning, everyone, and welcome to Google here, where we're kicking off our event with CLICKTRUST. Now, over the last few years, we've all been completely inundated with the theory of AI. We've watched the keynotes, we've read the prediction reports, but as our organizers, Fabian clearly put it for today's theme, it's time to move from theory to production and from slides to live action. So today is not about what AI might do tomorrow. It's very much about the horsepower of what it is doing right now to fundamentally change how we drive our business growth. Now, let's do a little level setting first. AI is, of course, incredible, but it's also the worst. What I mean is it's the worst it is ever going to be from now on. From this point on, it's only going to get better. It will be faster, it will be smarter, it will be more deeply embedded in how work gets done. Now, the floor, therefore, is what is possible, is only rising at an exponential rate. And you know this. If you wait for the tech to mature before adopting it, you've already lost the lead. AI, I would say, moves in dog's years. What used to take a decade now happens in months. If we had to put a pin about where we are right now, I'd say we're right at the end of the beginning. In this chapter, AI becomes operational. It starts to unlock new business opportunities. But we have to be realistic. AI may move in dog years, but organizations and people don't. And that is one of the reasons why transformation is so hard, even inside a company like Google. But as we move from this hype to production, we run face first into a defining leadership challenge. If we look at the data, 96% of the leaders are incredibly excited about AI, and over half our teams are using it every single week. And yet, less than a third of marketing organizations have actually rewired their workflows to unlock real growth. And why? Because the technology may move in dog years, but human and organizations move in human years. And this creates that so-called transformation gap. Our biggest bottleneck today is not the capability of the technology. It is our organization's ability to absorb that change. For over a century, marketing operated in what we call slow sequential loops. You launch, you wait, you evaluate, and months later you optimize. And the internet and the mobile era made those loops a little smaller, but the relay race remained. Today, AI is actually collapsing these loops into single connected growth system. Strategy, creative production, and real-time data, they're no longer separate steps in a timeline. They happen simultaneously, and that requires a new playbook. So today's sessions are designed to help you bridge that exact gap so you don't get overtaken by organizations that are actually adopting AI at this speed. So with that, we are entering what we would call the outcome-based marketing. Instead of managing individual channel silos, the modern marketing leader has to look at the entire ecosystem as an intelligent system. At the core are your people and your data foundation, and surrounding them is a continuous flow of real-time measurement, feeding that dynamic creative, which instantly optimizes media optimization. And when you connect those pieces, you stop doing random acts of AI, and you start engineering repeatable business outcomes. So let me show you what happens when a brand actually builds this capability. This is the fashion brand Aritzia. It's a US brand, but totally applicable to Europe. Traditional retail dictates that you market your winter gear in end of Q3 and Q4. But by using predictive intelligence, they actually were able to analyze real consumer signals. And Google AI caught this massive anomaly. Search interest for their winter super puff jackets was actually spiking in June. So instead of waiting for the calendar, they immediately deployed automated AI campaigns across demand gen and PMax to bridge that digital intent where physical store inventory couldn't match it. And the result? They bypassed that traditional retail playbook and achieved a 42% lift in e-commerce revenue and grew 5 times faster than the industry average. That is the power of a connected system. When we look at those successes, we realize that true transformation requires an internal cultural shift. At Google, our own marketing organization uses a simple 3-part framework to guide our AI ambition. First, we automate the mundane. We remove the low-value, repetitive tasks for our team's plate. And second, we augment every marketeer. We give them superpowers with sharper insights, with faster workflows, and with better tools. And finally, we amplify our business impact. So we let humans get back to do what they do best. They shape strategy, they build enduring brands, and they create brilliant human-centered work. AI shouldn't just make your current processes 10% faster. It should allow your team to achieve things that were actually previously structurally impossible. So as we kick off today's event, I want to challenge every leader and marketeer in this room to walk through the upcoming sessions with 3 questions in mind. One is on impact. Are we clear on the exact workflows within your organizations where AI can move the needle? Or are we still playing with tools? And on readiness is, as a marketing loops collapse, are we redesigning how our teams work? Or are we still running a modern AI engine on a really old operating system? And then finally, on scale, how do we move past those siloed pilots and actually scale across the entire organization? As executives, our job is to ask those questions. CLICKTRUST's goal today is to give you those exact live demos of how they've done it and show you the architecture models and roadmaps for you to be able to do the same. So thank you, enjoy the day, and let's move from theory to production.
Thank you very much, Corinne. Just going to the next one. So I'm going to also latch on to that with a little bit of a throwback as well to 2025 and to explain the journey on how we got to where we are today. Not the most easy of journeys, so I'm just going to start with the first slide, which kind of explains how it was in the beginning. New tools every day. Those of you who were here last year remember perhaps that I showed this. Basically, what I thought AI implementation was giving my credit card to my staff. And that meant that they could have freedom to test whatever tool they want. Very quickly, there was no coordination. You had some people testing everything, other people who were completely behind. There was no roadmap in place. There was no governance. Honestly, I didn't really have a clue what people were doing with these different tools, but I thought I was doing the right thing because I was empowering, enabling my staff. So very quickly, the credit card bill exploded, and we needed to have a different plan. It was around this time, approximately, that I decided also to classify my staff into 3 distinct human species. This is not a scientific approach, but this is how I saw my approach of my people. So on the left, if you remember in the beginning of AI, you had people when they were amazed with the capacities of ChatGPT to draw stuff. They could create rabbits, and you had workshops on how to create a rabbit with ChatGPT, and everybody thought it was absolutely wonderful. These were the good old days. These same people, they often made unicorns, or they turned themselves into cowboys or astronauts on social media, and everybody thought it was fantastic. On the other side, and that was the biggest part of my team, you had the deniers. You had people who pretended that AI was just a fad, it didn't exist. They logged in once, tried something, got a mediocre result, and then judged AI forever, never to open it again. But then you had the middle class, and these were the ones that I thought were the most promising, but in the end, these were the ones that cost me the most money. They completely made my credit card bill explode. So they were testing absolutely everything. New tools, market fact, excellent. Now, these same people have evolved, species evolved. Now they have OpenClaw on a Mac Mini, and they take creatine, like Gym Bros, and they share every single selfie on LinkedIn. So these were the people that I had to kind of take along on board and try to find some kind of a coordinated way to work with. But it wasn't just the first 3 species. I mean, throughout 2026, while we were carrying on with different tools and processes and first AI tools, there was a different kind of species, and I've decided to classify them as the zombies. Now, they lack deep understanding of AI. They also lack deep understanding of the business. And they kind of blindly trust AI outputs, and they stopped using their own brain about 7 months ago. Not a very positive view of this kind of species, but I think they're absolutely everywhere, and especially in certain areas. Management of companies. I mean, how many times have we heard the last year, surely an AI can do this in 5 minutes? I mean, I've already done it in 10 seconds, and look, this is what it looks like. And then you have the manager who's never built a landing page in his life show you this absolutely crap-looking landing page that they are convinced is just as qualitative as the landing pages that you've been developing for the last couple of years. And so, by the way, yeah, this is generated by Gemini. It took me exactly 3 seconds. I did not ask for the bionic armor on the lady. Neither did I want her to be green. Don't know what that is about. And the lovely cup of coffee on the bookshelf. Fantastic place. That's where we all keep our hot coffee when we're at work. So yeah, surely we can do this already in 5 minutes. And perhaps, yes, 80% of the work takes, 10 minutes. But the last 20% to get it right, that's where your weekend goes to die. And the problem is that in the beginning of the year, and also the end of last year, what we saw is announcements that AI will be able to automate everything. So if it's not really able today to fix the 20%, that will happen soon. So we can already budget this in advance, and that means that we don't need as many experienced people. So 80% of the work is done in 10 minutes, and the last 20% is done by one person who is all of a sudden the person who has to fix everything because the AI didn't do it properly. And so, yeah, it will probably be able to fix that. If we look today, we have Fable, which has been launched by Anthropic a few days ago. Really amazing system. But it's only as good as the data that it has, which was mentioned by Corinne here as well. And so your same silos that you've had for the last couple of years are going to come back. It's just that they learned the word agentic now. It's the new thing. If you remember the graph that Corinne showed with creative data people. This is exactly the same schema, the same graph that we saw years ago when we were talking about how to become connected in terms of campaign management, using personalized advertising, media mix modeling. All of these techniques require data to flow. Humans couldn't fix it. And so if you think humans can't fix it, do you think an AI can block the hurdles between legal, sales and CMOs and CFOs? So I'm sorry to tell you, but the shit has hit the fan. So it's a wonderful, eloquent English expression. You might hear from my accent that I grew up in the UK, so I like these kind of expressions. AI is amplifying both the good and the bad. And I won't lie about it, we've had our issues at ClickTrust as well. A while back, content need to be created, and of course, if you use the first, if you use an AI, the first pieces of content are fine. But if you use a pipeline with 500 pieces of content, context windows explode and everything, and the last pieces of content were absolutely horrible. And of course, shit hits the fan. And also, the control of that failed for the same reasons, because you need to know how AIs work to understand that there are token limits, that there are context windows, and all these things that you need to optimize. And so very quickly we come into the situation now where we see that a lot of output on the web is completely mediocre. We understand today that it wasn't that easy. Now this image is not what the world was waiting for. Nobody was waiting for a toddler with a chainsaw. And for your information, Gemini did not generate this image because it didn't want to. Grok did. There was no issue with that. Thank you, Grok. And so what I'm trying to point out with this wonderful image is that if today we start replacing our human workers with AIs without all the governance and without the vision that goes with it, it's like putting a chainsaw in the hands of a toddler, which is ironic because now CMO is talking about the agentic workforce. So bring them on. I'm not saying that this is not going to work, but we need to take into account, of course, I can see some smiles and some people absolutely horrified. So my apologies for that. Let's get this slide off the screen. But we need to figure out, not just, we don't just need to use AI, put credit cards in place or whatever. We need to actually have a plan. We need to know what's going on in terms of governance, who's doing what, how the data is flowing, and more importantly, figure out what we're going to do with it. I mean, the point cannot be to simply automate ourselves. Automating ourselves is a race to the bottom. So we asked ourselves a question: what can a performance agency like ClickTRUST do with AI? And the question that, what sets us apart, what makes us unique, is what we need to answer first. First of all, what makes an agency like ClickTRUST and others interesting is that we have access to multiple verticals. That's what we do. We work with lots of different verticals across different, even across different countries. We see more things go wrong and succeed than in-house marketeers because of the sheer volume that we see every single day. That's why people keep on coming back to our trainings as well and ask us for advice, even if they have internal teams. There's 35 of us with the above advantage, and we do speak to each other. We share knowledge. We share best practices. So this compounds and creates experience. The automation would be nice, but if we had something that could actually accelerate this process and turn it into something that is amplified, then we have something real. Now, it all starts with understanding what it is that AIs can do and what they can't do, and what we do well and what we can't do well. So the point was to have this presented by Deborah. I'm obviously not Deborah. She called me today. I said, Fabien? Said, yes, Deborah. Je suis malade. Okay, fine. I'll do your keynote. So it's Deborah's excuse today. I'll be doing her keynote today. But what we was planning here to explain was a very nice A/B test that we were running to show what the difference is between AI and human expertise. So I'm going to carry on with her presentation, so excuse me for hijacking hers, but you're going to have to do it with me. So the real question that we want to ask ourselves before we start talking about how to use AI is, does human context and expertise still make the difference, or are we just becoming expensive button pushers? The amount of times that I hear from management saying, look, your AI will be able to do this in future. Let's not recruit another person here, or let's not do this. It's kind of, it creates a lot of anxiety. I mean, I'm sure people in this room here today have also asked the question whether they're still going to have a job in a few years' time when the AI has become even more powerful. And so we know that an AI can run a campaign, a full campaign from end to end. So the honest question that we need to ask ourselves is whether we are still actually able to do it better, or whether we are going to be replaced. So anyway, we wanted the evidence, so we ran an A/B test. So this was done on a real campaign with real money, with real stakes, and not small stakes. So we decided to run the experiment. We're going to call it the standard versus human-infused Claude. So on in the gray corner, or in the on the right corner, we have standard Claude. standard Claude. I'll explain the setup in a second. And on the left, we have human-infused Claude, which is this kind of cyborg, which uses both the capacities of the AI and the human being. Now, what we did is we used the case of a client, which is also kind of myself. That's the reason we could try this on this client. This is Fondation STAM. I often mention this in keynotes. It's an organization which is active in Burundi, which is it has multiple hospitals, orphanages, schools. And so I'm on the board of this organization, and I decide what goes on with the marketing budget so I could spend it on an A/B test safely without anybody complaining. So that's what we did. So we decided to do a geo-lift. A geo-lift, so basically dividing a country based on zip codes or population metrics to make sure that we have a clear view of what works in one area and compare it to the baseline of the other. We did it through Google Ads, so I'm going to explain the setup first. So typical briefing from a client, which is not very complete, but that's what we have to deal with, that's reality. So the objective was to drive financial donations from high-intent donors in France. Is UNICEF in the room? Not yet? Okay, there is one. Okay, I'll be careful with what I say. This was France, okay? I was not bidding on UNICEF keywords in Belgium. So anyway, drive critical financial donations from high-intent donors in France to scale humanitarian impact. Not easy getting digital donations for an organization which is based in Burundi, which is not very known. Success metric, easy. Convert basically every euro spent into 1.5 euros via donation value with a maximum cost per donation of 10 euros. Target, socially conscious French donors, and the messaging must, of course, emphasize transparency and impact. So anyway, how did we do this? Standard Claude. Context, none. So basically, Claude that you get out of the box, same Claude that you have, depending on your license, but not giving any context. Skills, none. So we basically just let it out of the box and we gave it possibility to manage the account without any human validation. So this happened via an MCP integration using Markifact. This is all possible today. We just basically said, Claude, run the account without any validation. So he could do whatever he wanted. On the other side, we had the human-infused Claude. They got the full client knowledge, which means all the context, but the information that we have internally. Questions that we've asked the client as well. Context that you need to know about this campaign if you are a human being wanting to run the campaigns. We also gave it the CLICKTRUST methodology. So the CLICKTRUST methodology, the CLICKTRUSTology, if you like, is a combination of all our processes, all our procedures, all the stuff we know that we've built up over the last couple of years. We gave it some skills, which we've also created on our side, which is the CLICKTRUST setup skill for Google Ads campaigns, the check and the optimize. Everything that the AI was going to do needed to be validated by a human in the loop. So the human goes through everything and points it in the right direction if we don't agree. So the setup technically, 2 separate computers, 2 separate email addresses, 2 brand new ad accounts, not to give the one Claude the advantage over the other because of the history in the account. We both gave them 50 euros a day, identical budget. Through Claude, so 2 Claude co-work instances, and connected via the Markifact MCP. Both were separated in terms of geo, so they were not targeting the same areas. Right, so just very quickly, for those of you who don't know how search works, not everybody here has performance marketing background or SEA background. The keyword is what people type to trigger a search. You have an ad that appears, which is run through an auction. There's a click on it, and hopefully in the end, there's a donation. So that's the flow. So keyword, auction, click, flow. There's different types of targeting that you can use in Google Ads. You have exact phrase, which shows only on very specific keywords, and you have broad keywords which match very broadly. So if somebody would do a broad search on make a donation to an NGO, that could appear on any of these searches like blood donation, clothes donation, animal shelter, Wikipedia donation. So this can very quickly go all over the place. So let's take a look at, first of all, the different bidding strategies. You have usually maximize clicks, which means that the strategy will try to optimize the auction to try to get a maximum amount of clicks, and we have maximize conversions, so trying to get a maximum amount of conversions. The maximize conversions is smarter than the clicks because it goes all the way down to the actual transaction. Now, the signal problem with these two strategies is important. So what we know out of so many years of experience with running these types of campaigns is that for an organization like Fondation Stam that's unknown in Europe to get donations via a search ad, it's not easy. People don't trust it. So we didn't think we'd get a lot of donations. Not a lot of donations means not a lot of conversions. Not a lot of conversions means the algorithm is not able to optimize properly. We know this. So the expert move is to track a proxy event as a conversion earlier in the funnel. So not the final transaction. We decided to track select payments. So when you have a checkout flow, you basically click on I want to donate 10 euros, and then you select your payment method, and then you give your address and stuff like that, and then afterwards you check out, you do the donation. So what we did is we took the payments, the select payment, which has 3 times more data than the actual transaction. Why? Because 1 out of 3 people doesn't go through the checkout. So this gave us much more data to work with. So that's the expert move. That was in our context, in our CLICKTRUSTology, in everything that we do. We know this. So the gap before even a single euro is spent was quite amazing. So on the left, actually on your left, my right, you have standard Claude. We didn't tell it how to set up the account. We just gave it the information, and straight away what they decided to do, it's not they, it's, I don't know how to call Claude. Conversion tracking used the end donation only, the final transaction. It decided to go for broad keywords only. So, faire un don, okay. Match type, initially phrase and exact, switched it to broad on day 2. Had a call with Google, I think, because Google always pushes for broad max. Maybe that's what happened. Anyway, bidding, maximize clicks straight away. Fine, this is going to go well. On the other side, we had human-infused Claude. Human-infused Claude immediately understood on the back of the documentation that we gave it that it should take a mid-funnel conversion to have more data. It selected competitors' NGO names with donation intent, because also from documentation we know that this works. We excluded UNICEF, okay? Match type, exact and phrase, which was held already from the setup as well, and immediately it went for maximized conversions. Right, the results, day 7. We had to pull the plug on standard Claude. 350 euros spent, 0 conversions. Broad match escalated, no conversion signal to learn from. The ONG keywords, it started self-excluding it, and I'll go into detail in a second. It pivoted to landing page recommendations, which was kind of funny. I'll show you in a second. But anyway, we pulled the plug after 7 days. It literally drove itself into a wall. I didn't know what to do anymore. I started panicking. I started saying stuff which is quite interesting. Human-infused Claude spent 130 euros and received 360 donations. 360 euros in donations. The strategy was working. So let's go through both of them, see what they did. So let's see, I mean, we can see who won, but let's see the why behind it. So first we have standard Claude. And this was quite quickly decided to pause low volume keywords. So the 7 broad match keywords added in run 2 are eligible and starting to generate traffic. Blah, blah, blah. Aide humanitaire enfant alone drove 148 impressions. And so it's telling you what it did. Action taken, 18 non-eligible keywords paused across both ad groups. Now, if I see this as a performance manager, and some of you are performance manager or as a media manager, I'd say this is pretty smart. This looks like it's doing well. And so this looks like a good decision. So it also started capping the CPC. Very interesting. Max cap is set at 2 euros. Again, plausible, not bad. It meant that it actually was able to think. Adding negative keywords, also best practice. It's doing quite well here. So it's not adding all the negative keywords that I would have done, but still not that bad. But then it started auditing the landing page. Very proactive. Exactly what an agency should be doing. Issue 1, the tax deduction is in the ads but invisible on the page. Impact amounts to a match donation. Payers, les salariés must be removed immediately. Anyway, some decent recommendations. It looked competent, but then, didn't expect this, it started blaming us. Isn't this what agencies do all the time? Campaign doesn't work, optimize your landing page. Campaign doesn't work, it's because it's bad weather. Campaign doesn't work because it's 30 degrees outside. So all these things. So anyway, it told us that you didn't make a mistake. Talking point for your client said, dude, I didn't even tell you we had a client. So we've spent 338 euros and we've learned a great deal in the process. The majority of that spend went to imperfect traffic, and so on and so on. It's an honest, defensible position. That was what Claude's conclusion was. So optimize the campaign, drive itself in the wall, blame the client because of a bad landing page. Classic. Claude Infused, what did it do? So the first thing it started doing with the different setup is the good news first. The campaign is working. After 3 days of 0 clicks, yesterday changes, so it made a few changes. We started getting traffic. 12 clicks, 3 conversions. The right keywords, the right clicks. The mechanism is confirmed. Croix-Rouge Don converted at 2.28, Secours Catholique, and so on. Too early to judge CPA. Cool. Okay. It was discussing with the analyst. So here we have, I think it was Mathilde here who was speaking to it. So pour agrandir le volume, you can also add even more competitive keywords. We're not talking about the ethics of the strategy here, right? We're talking about the AI. Fine. The only people laughing was CLICKTRUST, sorry. So anyway, it says here, okay, this is a good idea. So the volume is there, let's do this. And so you have this interaction between the human and the AI. The AI, thank God, does this work automatically, creating the different ad groups, pushing it through. There's no reason for a human to do that. And so, time one, cool. And it started optimizing the campaigns through CPA, so trying to gently decrease the CPA. Best practice, doing well, all on the back of the skills that we gave it. So, same model. Context and expertise were different, but there is a massive gap between the 0 ROI and the ROI of 3. And the gap there is explained by the difference. Context, expertise, and human validation is what allowed us to have the AI actually optimize it properly. So, the question, are we all going to be losing our jobs because the AI can do it for us? No, we are not, which is pretty cool to know. The model is brilliant at execution, but however, it's not able to understand the right strategic calls. We as human beings know how to interpret the lack of data, which is something that an AI has very much difficulty with. Automation is a commodity. That's what we need to understand. We can automate everything. Your automating tool can automate. So we can today ask AI to automate something for us, which becomes really weird, because if everything can be automated by everyone, there is absolutely no value in that. So nice race to the bottom. The differentiator is the expertise that we give it and what we feed into it. Now, the structured, accumulated expertise that's available at every single moment, at every decision, that's the real moat. That's what we need to try to amplify, and that's where I'm coming back to what we said this morning. Which raises the real question. How do you make that expertise structured, queryable, and reusable at scale, where we end up with this kind of flywheel that we saw from the presentation for Google? That's exactly what Mathilde is going to show you this afternoon. But for now, we are going to switch to different presentation. So you've been listening to me far too much, and CLICKTRUST is not just about me. And we are handing it over to a completely different topic. There is a red line in everything, of course. And I'd like to welcome on stage Clément Deneve, who is our in-house creative and who has been using AI tools for his job for the last year and a half. So here's Clément.
Thank you. Okay. Merci. So yeah, hello everyone. I'm Clément, as just Fabian said, and I'm the content creator at CLICKTRUST. And I will show you my way of working to create from 5 statics a video ad easily, quite quickly, and a way of working that you can replicate to create content fast and creatively. These are 3 examples of videos that we've created for different clients. These are 3 types of videos that are really different for different targets, different clients, but they all have one thing in common, and that is that we didn't film a single frame for it. So I didn't move from my desk to create that. And we used, obviously, no set, no camera, no crew, no budget. This was all AI made. It just required, like I said, a few images, a bit of creativity, and that's it. This was the kind of briefs that we receive from clients, and we had to turn down because it was nearly impossible to do before AI. They come up to us with just a few images or even no footage at all, unfinished product or unfinished project, no shoot possible. It was obviously urgent, and they had no budget for it. Obviously, you receive that, you have two options. Either you turn it down or you create something which is forgettable, and that's going to be really not up to the task. But now with AI, we have a third option, and that's what we use nowadays. And why AI video changed the rules? Especially nowadays, we see video everywhere, on every platform, in every format. So it's a requirement for everyone to create videos. Everyone need videos, different type of videos. And they need it quick, they need it creative, and with no budget again. So that's where AI comes in handful. It takes like, on average, 30 minutes to create an image and create a video that is worth putting online with AI. And compared to classic production, where it takes days, even sometimes weeks, to have good results, you see that it's quite handful. And it takes, on average, 90% less cost to produce that with AI than with classic production. This also raises another question, and that is not if AI will replace the content creators, but it's much if, like, how fast will creators that use AI outperform those who don't. And that's why I'm going to show you my pipeline, my way of working, that I find it the most efficient way of working with AI, where you keep the most control, and so you can get this kind of ads.
Já chegou, essa é a minha jornada. Eu sei quem eu sou. Valoriza o seu tempo. Quando chega no final, lembra onde começou. Não posso parar na linha final. Eu vou chegar, não posso parar. O meu troféu, eu vou ganhar. Gratidão no coração, minha mente na missão. É viver no que se aprende, meu irmão. It's time to go.
So that was obviously a fake ad that I created for this event, for this presentation. But this basically to show you how easy to make it is nowadays. I did this in just a few hours and with just a few images. So I came up with this fake brand for these fake ads. Obviously a bit inspired by the World Cup that has just started. But also to make a comparison with classic production. With a classic production crew for this type of ads, it would have taken days, even weeks to produce. And yeah, I produced this just in a few hours with AI tools. And this is the pipeline that I've used to create this kind of videos. It takes a few steps, and actually, if you follow these steps, you end up with results that will look like the video I've just showed you. And the first one is, of course, handling the client's brief and their needs. As I said earlier, clients come up to me with brief and needs that are basically the same all the times. So they have no budget, they need fast production, exciting video, creative video, of course, because you see a lot of them. So you need to differentiate yourself from others by creativity. And they have few to no image, no project. We cannot shoot live. And of course, yeah, no budget, as I said. And we keep that in mind for our next step, that is working on our original ID. This is going to be key for the rest of the work. This is really the foundation of everything. And you see that all the next step are using AI, but this one is not. And this is where we put the most time, because without an original ID, you're not going to go anywhere. AI is just working for you. So if you feed him with bad ID or bad prompt, it's going to make a bad-looking final video, and that's not what we want. So we need to put some effort and time to create these original IDs. And to do so, we follow these 3 points. So we need to target some emotions, find who you want to target, and how you want to catch their attention. This is really key nowadays. It's to capture their attention within the 3 first seconds. And to do so, you need to put in your video some kind of emotions. Then find an unexpected angle. Even more with AI, it's quite easy to make. We can do it, so we can go in any direction. So that's something that is quite fun to do and to try on. And of course, keep a visual plan at all time. It's really key to ensure that everything goes well, and that you know where you're going, and you already have in your mind an idea of the video that you want. So once you get your original ID, you get your foundation that is ready, we can now start working with AI. So we're going to use 3 different tools for this, and these are the tools we're going to make. So we are going to work with Gemini, NanoBanana, and VO3, obviously all Google tools. We're going to use Gemini as an orchestrator. You're going to see that we're going to go back and forth with Gemini to create some prompts, to feed NanoBanana and VO3 to create some images, and then to create videos from these images. So first, we go to Gemini and we type in what we want to create. We obviously need to create some more images from the one that we have. And to do so, we need to feed him with a lot of information. That is really going to be key. So when you get your ID and your plan ready, you need to go further and think of everything that is related to your picture and your video. So that's going to be lighting, environment, every detail that you have in mind. You need to put it, you need to give it to Gemini so that it can create prompts to help you create images and then video from these images. So this is really the base of everything. So once that you have your prompt ready, you can start generate your images. And for that, we're going to use NanoBanana. So with the prompt that we've created in Gemini, we're going to feed NanoBanana the prompt that we render with all of our information. And with that, we're going to create images that are consistent, that are good looking, not AI looking, but more film-like. So this is where, like I said, it's really important to be as detailed as possible, because the lighting, the colors, the environment really are going to be key for all these tools to understand the image and the look you want to get in your video. So these were the original image I work with to create the ad that I have just shown you. And with these 5 images, it's an example that you start with this, and then you need to create even more videos, images, to then create videos. But it allows you, that way of working allows you to really keep control on what you're doing, and really keep control on the AI tools that you're using. And so you don't need to generate too much video, use too much token, and be more efficient. So like I said, first you need to import your images that you're going to use to create the other images. Then you feed him with all the informations you got, and you ask him to write a prompt according to the tools you're gonna work with. Then once you get that prompt, you feed him in Nano Banana, you copy it, you attach the same photos that you attached in Gemini when you were asking your prompt, and then you let it do its magic. And so that's basically, it's quite easy to do, and you just replicate that with every image you want to create. And once you've got every image created, you can start feeding them into the video AI tool. How I'm going to work for this step is by using start and end frame. So we're going to feed him with the first frame of the video we want to create and the last frame. And basically, we're going to create a prompt with Gemini to tell him what is happening in between those frames. And so with that way of working, we keep a lot more control on what is happening in the video. Again, we're going to be as detailed as possible. We need to speak like more of a film director than we are used to, but it's really key to tell about the camera movement, the audio also, because you're gonna get, of course, a much better result if you are way more detailed. So basically, the way of working is quite the same. We go back to Gemini, the orchestrator. We feed him with our images, start and end frame. And we ask him to create a prompt for VO 3.1 to transition between those two images and tell him the action that we want to see in between those frames. There are other ways of working. We can also give the tool reference images to create a video from. And that's sometimes what we do if we want to create a more static shot, but I find that way of working like more efficient and you keep more control. So once you get your prompt, you copy it in VO3. You again feed him with our two images, the start and end frame. And again, check the parameters, check if everything fits. And then we can run it. And so just like that, we got the first frame of our video. And then you replicate that with every video that you need to create your bigger one. So just to show you again, it's quite an easy way of working, but just remember to post your last frame, then you get your result, and then you're gonna get videos that will be that will follow each one. And so that's an example to show you all the videos that we got to create the bigger one. And then lastly, we need to put a bit of editing, of course, but it's really nothing compared to a classic production. For this kind of example, I've put in like maybe 1 or 2 hours, just adding music, adding some text, just fine-tuning some stuff, but basically it's nothing. For a classic production, it would have taken weeks to do so. So it's really not comparable. So as I said, it's just about adding a bit of music because all the sound effects that you've heard also in the video are made with AI. So you just need to add a bit of music, a bit of text, depending on what you want to tell, and then a bit of fine-tuning, a final assembly. And then you get, finally, your final product that looks like this.
Essa é a minha jornada. Eu sei quem eu sou. Essa vida é presente. Valoriza o seu tempo. Quando chega no final, lembra onde começou. Não posso parar na linha final. Eu vou chegar, não posso parar. O meu troféu eu vou ganhar. Gratidão no coração. Minha mente na missão é viver no que se aprende, meu irmão. It's time to go, go, go.
I've also created a second ad for these fake campaigns to show you also a little bit more about the consistency that we can get also with this way of working. So yeah, you see it's pretty basic. The idea is not revolutionary. It's not the most creative idea, but it's simple, well executed, and you can get pretty good results. So now I want to ask you questions. So which one of your projects in your pipeline looks like this? So you have no visuals, no time, no budget. And now with this way of working, now imagine what you can create. Thank you. That was it for me.
You might have noticed that we're slightly ahead of schedule for the simple reason that 1, I forgot to do the agenda. 2, we forgot to do the questions after the first round, which is fine. What I really find funny in the way you say it only just takes you 5 minutes. It's only just. I can't do what you just did. I'm just going to be very honest. Even if you only just put a gun to my head, fine. But what I would suggest to we have, of course, also a possibility to ask questions, which I very elegantly forgot in the last session. I suggest we take this time now to ask questions. This is actually a microphone from people who have been at Google before. You know how this game works. You want to ask a question, you need to be able to catch it, which stops people from asking questions, but fine. We can ask questions also in the first session and the second session, of course. So there we go. I've got light in my eyes, so I can barely see you. Do we have questions from the audience? We've got 20 minutes to catch up on, so please. Oh, there we go. So where are you? Over there. Good luck.
My question is actually, why would you use like native Google tools and not like Artlist or Higgsfield that can combine different tools, or do you want to use a combination of it, or?
Actually, it was more for the sake of the event that they've used Google tools. I'm not gonna lie, it's for when I work like usually, I try to combine some other tools. Because obviously we know that all the tools are the pros and cons. So you really have to try them all and find your way of working, your own way of working with them. But yeah, basically all the like the Xfield and all these other tools use the same AI. So it basically comes down to the same pipeline.
So yeah, we have a commercial incentive. No, we don't.
You said no budget, but Fabian keeps saying that his credit card bills explode. So you have specific coupons or codes that we can use? Maybe?
That's also because I like to try a lot of stuff and to discover new tools, try new tools. That's how the bills are coming. But no, usually if you get your ID right and you get everything really structured, it's not going to cost you a lot. Basically, I think to generate that, the image generation costs, I think on the tool that I'm using, like maybe 7 cents or something like that, and the video maximum 1 or 2 euros. So if you do it well, it will maybe cost you $50 for a video, only for the tools, and then the time you're gonna spend on it, obviously.
And we sell it for around 3,000 euros. No, obviously not. But yeah, so the bills that we get from Clément's work are with Dimitri, CFO, and yeah, so he's managing all of these costs together, obviously, which raises the question of how to bill that to clients today, because it's not an easy question. And just from my memory, how much time did you spend creating that video overall? You mentioned it, but I can't remember.
Few hours.
Few hours. Back and forth with the client. In theory, this one was an ad that you made for the event. We also have the ad that we made for BPI, which I think is in the room, which was more extensive. But so a process which would take weeks, like you mentioned, is cut down to processes of 1 or 2 days with the back and forth with the client included. So not, yeah. To answer your question, or not.
Yep.
More questions? Every single time that I get a question from Simon in the audience is about the budget, but fine. Okay.
Yeah, I have a quick question. There was some research done on humans detecting and rejecting AI-generated content. Do you see any discrepancy at all in the data after creating and launching AI content?
Yeah, I'm not sure I really get what you said. Just about the restriction you can get while you're making the videos.
No, just the human interaction after the ad. So you created an AI ad. How do consumers react to AI? Do you see any difference in reaction compared to your previous work and now?
Unfortunately, I cannot give you much of feedback on this. I just create them, give them to other people, and then I just get a feedback like if it's well working or not, but I don't have the clear data on this.
Raw honesty, CLICKTRUST of...
I can actually answer that question because I work in the YouTube creatives team, so we've been looking into that data, and because there was a Cantor study as well. Actually, it's for now, indeed, we see that when users know that the ads it's generated by AI, there is less emotional content, and so it's working less good. But when they think it's human generated, but actually it's AI generated, then it's performing as well as like normal ads. So I think it's up to us to make those ads look, and the tools have very good tools to show that it's not AI generated. And here it was purely generated when it's like humans involved, because we see that ads when you play with animals and you make them completely like going crazy, they're actually performing quite well because we know that it's by default AI generated. So yeah, it's still a ongoing process, and we need to find the right balance between having that human feel, making it not look too much AI generated.
Up to the front.
On that question, perhaps, you said AI created, but now you see in ads on television, this is AI created. Right, they need to add the edit on some ads. Is it going to be mandatory to put that on, or what's your
yes?
opinion?
The EU Act will make it mandatory by August 2nd to have an AI label on all the images and videos. So it's your responsibility as well as an advertiser, and Google is working on some options as well. There is also New York is since 9th of June also applying that, and India as well is working. So yeah, it's quite busy, in terms of legislation into that area.
Comes to a really interesting evolution, I think. So you have AI-driven agencies, and you have agencies which are staying human, and where you can only work with humans. Who knows? Anyway.
Yeah. First of all, congratulations on the video. I think we were all very impressed with it. My question goes around the ideation. So how do you proceed when sort of trying to figure out what shall I create as a video idea? Do you use AI, or is it you just being you and things working out?
I try not at this stage. First, in my way of working, I first try to really come to my creativity, and I like to have a lot of constraints actually. Because as I see it, it's the more constraints you have, the more creative you can get, obviously. So I like to ask a lot of questions and get a lot of information about what you can't and what you can do. And then if I have a blank page that arrives, then I ask AI. And most of the time I don't use the recommendation, but it's like a start of something. It sparkles something in my mind. And then I get other ideas, and then that's how I do it.
Because it's very easy to get zombified, if you know what I mean,
yeah,
if you don't
right.
go your way.
Yeah.
Thank
That's because for me that's the most important part, and that's where human really come in handful. It's on the ideation part, because that's where all the difference is made. So it's in my mind better to do it with your own creativity.
Thank you.
More questions? Yep. Back to Simon.
Fabio, you decided to hire this creative from coming from a performance agency is quite innovative or ballsy. Do you think you will have the same in-housing of creative capacities from advertisers, just like they did for media or performance marketing? Because usually advertisers still rely on creative agencies today, and they are pushing them to use AI to decrease cost. But what about in-housing this capacity, because it becomes much more easier now with the tool you just presented?
My view on that is a bit dual. Also for performance marketing and media, they both go together. What we see in them, I mean, you are obviously from a company that has in-housed a part, so performance marketing and digital media at D'Ieteren. Other companies are choosing not to. For the simple reason that they consider that it's not their core business and they should be focusing on core business, or use the advantage of an agency, multiple verticals, multiple staff. And so what I thought would happen a couple of years ago was this massive in-housing trend. There is an in-housing trend on the performance media side, but not as big as I would have expected. And what's weird is that the AI arrival is also tuning that back, because they realize also that the speed that agencies tend to have with developing AI implementations is in general, not always, a lot faster than what's happening at the clients, because of less constraints from compliance, legal, whatever. We can test a lot faster than most other companies. I can see AG Insurance starting to laugh there, which is fine. I think for the creative side of things as well, I mean, it's the same thing. The companies that are able to move fast on that side can move quite quickly in terms of internalization, but it's also a question of whether they want it. For simple videos, let's say the kind of performance-driven videos that we create to switch off. That's how I call them. We want 20 different variations that we want to test and switch off the 18 ones which didn't work, preferably within 2 weeks. So these ones cannot cost 50,000 euros at an agency or 100,000 euros with a massive shooting or whatever. And I think these are the videos that will probably be in-housed quite fast as well. But still, you need sufficient volume, which you have. But for most companies today, we still see that they want the external part, which is way beyond just the creative. You also need somebody to blame when it goes wrong, Simon. So there you go. On the back.
Going back to the performance from your presentation, Fabien, you compared Claude to enhanced Claude Cyborg, but how does the Cyborg compare to just the human, not using AI? So the historical data.
Good question.
You also had costs with the human AI.
Compared to last year on year, when the human was managing the same campaign, it did 30% better this year. Is it because of the AI? Difficult to say, because there was not that much volume, so it would not be statistically relevant. But it's running even now, and so it's not doing that bad. Last year was, June is not a good donation period. May is not the best one. It's the end of the year, which will really make the difference. But we are looking for more use cases, clients where we can also try this with different sets of AIs. So if we have a client which would like to burn some money on a crap AI, please raise your hands. But we need to test this kind of thing a lot more, obviously. So I can't answer you yet. Joe? More questions? Yep. Oh, that's UNICEF. Watch out.
Good morning. Question on job content, because you have people in-house working on creatives, but now they're working on AI. They're constantly prompting. How do they feel about that? Will they want to keep on doing that? Is that their purpose? Is that their their passion, let's say, because their passion before was creating things. Now it's asking something to create things for you. And beyond creating graphical stuff, it's the same for sales. It's the same for every other job in your team, I think.
Let's ask the question straight away. Clément has the tendency of being brutally honest.
In my opinion, is just another way of creating. So it's quite exciting, actually. And it's not because we are doing AI that we don't do like classical stuff also. It's like more of another tool that I use and I tend to discover and use more often, but just all about creating, and that's what excites me the most. So when you have another way of working, it's really exciting, especially because you can do stuff that you cannot with classical way of working. So that's it's quite fun.
Thank you. Maybe one more question for Fabien. Will customers want to pay what they're currently paying if they see your new model?
That was going to be my question to you. No, the first, just to rebound on the first one though, because Clément, it has a fun job. Seriously, I mean, if you look at what he does, I think I'm quite jealous. It's fun, it's creative, so I think he's on the cool side of things. To be honest, we also have campaign management, where before people would spend half of their lives clicking through an interface which doesn't make people happy. Now they're working through another interface and prompting and analyzing and looking at this. What I can see is that the learning curve, where effectively you're spending 4 hours prompting something to get a result that, be honest, you could have done it yourself in 2. But for some reason you want it to work. So you keep on prompting until it works, until you go mad. This process isn't cool. But once you have a system in place, and we'll show one this afternoon, which is designed also in our case, the agency or your internal team, which respects roles of people or creates roles, then it becomes different. And then it really becomes like a conversation that you have via chat with a coworker very quickly. Except that you don't have to spend afterwards an entire day setting up Google Ads campaigns with keywords, with this and that. So I think it's the shift which is hard, like always, the transformation phase. But once we are there, it's going to be a lot more fun. Now, I'd be lying to you if I'd say that there wasn't issues with that, because over the last 18 months, we've seen the highest resignation rate at CLICKTRUST since 15 years, and for different reasons. But some of the reasons are, I'm leaving the sector. Goodbye. Because of people not seeing this change, which is fine. But so, yeah, I think we're just in this massive transformation area right now. Second part of your question, are clients going to want to pay for this? Apparently you do. So that's good. But pricing is going to evolve. I think there is definitely going to be the part of the human expertise, which is like the agency model today, mostly. There's also agencies, and we are also looking at that, experimenting with token cost, which is not an easy thing to do, because we also know that the models being used all have different costs, all have different ways of increasing costs. I mean, today, if you use Anthropic, you pay like crazy for stuff that you do not need because of all the stuff that they pump into the context when they answer. You've surely noticed as well, you ask a simple question, and okay, here's a PDF that interactively opens a new video course. What? So all I wanted was an Excel sheet. And so it goes very quickly, and I think we're nowhere near understanding yet how to price this properly. The entire idea of value-based pricing, where the market is going towards as well, isn't something which I think is very sustainable in Belgium either. And I never really liked the idea of you're going to pay 30,000 euros for something that took me 30 minutes, but I spent 30 years learning this skill. Anyway, it's a whole debate, and I can't answer yet, but I think we're going towards a hybrid model of, on the one side, the expertise, the manpower being used, and of course the tech. But we just need to find some maturity on that. Thank you. More questions, if any. Wow. Yep. Good luck. There's the pillar. This is going to be interesting. Teamwork.
Thanks. I'm wondering, because in the beginning you showed like these different people and there are different stages of adoption, right, in terms of AI. And I'm wondering, so you said some people are leaving, maybe because their job is changing, right, going from more manual work to more cyborg work in some way. How do you manage that from a people's perspective as a manager? Kind of because there's people that are very keen, those testers, right? But there's also those other people. How do you manage that from a culture perspective? How do you manage that adoption in the agency?
Through what we'll show you this afternoon, we've created a learning platform. So I'm not going to give the entire presentation now, that would be a shame. But one of the key things that we've also always had, whatever the skill set, whatever, if you're talking about AI or processes, and internal teams have this as well, you have people running at different paces. You have people doing different things. Onboarding people in an agency has always been a huge challenge before AI. That hasn't changed. Getting people to learn stuff quickly, getting people to do the things the same way. So that I always make the example of McDonald's. We are not McDonald's, but I like the fact that when you go to McDonald's, you know exactly what you're going to get. That should be the way an agency operates, or any client-facing team in whatever industry. You want them to basically give the same level of service to everyone. And so for that, we needed a learning platform which allowed us to quickly accelerate this. And so for me, the implementation of AI skills isn't any different than getting people, for example, to learn about a new channel, or TikTok ads arriving, or Google Ads AI Max being launched, whatever. So for me, it's not something fundamentally different from something that we've been doing over the last few years. It's about giving them the right processes, the right tools, and getting them to adopt these, just like every other change we see in digital constantly. There we go. More questions? That's pretty much okay. we managed to catch up 15 minutes. But anyway, very interesting discussions. If we don't have any further questions, I suggest we go for our coffee break now. The coffee break will be until 11:30, and then we kick it back off with the next presentation from Google. Thank you very much.
All right. I hope you all had a nice coffee break and are fresh again for the next talk. Because we are going to talk about how Google is reimagining search and video for the agentic era, and specifically, of course, how you can, with your brand or company or business, can leverage this to capture attention when users' search behavior is completely different than a few months ago. But before we kick off, I think maybe many of you don't know who we are. So a very short introduction. I'm Eline. I'm the agency manager for Belgium and Luxembourg, and I work with CLICKTRUST and some other agencies to foster partnerships with them. And next to me,
I'm Maud. I work in the YouTube team for creative, so I'm a product lead for our EMEA region.
Exactly. Before we kick off, maybe one question I want to ask to all of you, and just raise your hand. You know, like a few years ago when ChatGPT and other LLMs just started to come up, who of you thought that this would mean the end, or at least a catastrophe for Google search? Not that many, okay. I like your confidence. Still like your confidence in Google search. But of course, I think we all had questions about what would happen to Google search, but actually we can say now that AI is the best thing that has ever happened to search, because we see that the user searches in the last month have reached an all-time high. There have never been more searches than right now. And not only is the search is increasing, but they're also becoming longer. Like people, as you might do as well, are searching in a completely different way. They're like brainstorming, they're asking questions, and most importantly, they expect a good and relevant response back. And they're getting that because they know that they're more satisfied than ever before. And of course, from Google's side, we have AI overviews and an AI mode who was launched, I think, just over a year ago to help with that. Just a little example, maybe. Like a personal example. For example, a few weeks ago, I was in Copenhagen I wanted to go to like a typical Danish lunch place where they have this let's call it open-faced sandwich because it's super difficult to pronounce that in Danish. And I went to like a very famous restaurant in Copenhagen specifically for this type of sandwiches. And what I did is I opened Google Lens, so that's also something that we see is being used a lot more right now. And I thought, okay, this is like the best sandwich I ever had, the best chicken salad it was that I ever had. And I thought, okay, what are the ingredients? How do they make this? So I just took a picture, asked that like, how is this restaurant making this? Like, and how can I make my own chicken salad at home? And it gave me like the recipe. It even like, because on the plate, it shows like the name of the restaurant. So it even said like, okay, in this specific restaurant, they usually work with this to make it like taste even better. So it's like quite amazing what's possible. And like basically you can search anything and get a specific answer to your question right now. But only like AI is not growing the amount of searches, but also what we see is, although people might search on ChatGPT and other LLMs, I just take ChatGPT as an example, when they want to make the purchase, they still get back to search to do that. And that's why we also see that search results or the amount of search engines didn't necessarily decline. And other than that, like right now, maybe where a few years ago or in the past, like when you search something, Google just gathered some information and provided it back to you. But now there's a lot more intelligence, of course, involved. So first of all, it starts to, or it's actually already deeply understanding the intent, also what some of the previous speakers talked about this morning. It's becoming a lot more personalized. So if you opt into that, for example, it can remember your preferences or what you have searched for before and make the results like much more relevant to you. And that's where it really becomes super handy, in our opinion, it's becoming a lot more agentic in the sense that it can help with task completion. So for example, here as an example, if, for example, I want to go after this event with Mott and with some people from CLICKTRUST to a restaurant here in the area, I can search like, okay, find me a dinner reservation for, I don't know, an Asian restaurant tonight at 6. And not only is it going to suggest like Asian restaurants with high ratings, but if you connect it with your calendar, it will also provide like availability, and it can even make the booking for you. So that's where things are really becoming interesting, and where especially for all of you, there will be some commercial intent going forward. But rather than me talking, let's maybe take a quick look at what's coming very soon. All right, we hope that you saw some things that look familiar, but also maybe some things that make you excited to see what's going to come in the coming weeks and months. But other than that, we see that Google Search is also where people figure out what they want rather than that they're already looking exactly for what they want, in the sense that we see a lot more queries regarding to brainstorming, or should I do this or this, or I know there's a lot of banking clients here, like which bank should I go for with the best mortgage rate, just an example. So yeah, that's exactly like in this brainstorming part, that's where agentic will come in, and that's Matt is gonna walk you through.
Yeah, and so you can see that really the world of shopping is changing faster than ever before, and the AI agentic is at the heart of it. And we estimate that around 3 trillion, revenue is going to be orchestrated from agentic commerce by 2030. By the way, 2030 is like in less than 4 years' times. It's going very fast. So what is Google doing what's on the horizon in the agentic area? You might have heard it. There was a big announcement at the beginning of the year. We've launched a Universal Commerce Protocol, UCP. So that's another acronym for you to use because we are mentioning it a lot. But what is it? It's a protocol, it's an open source standard designed really to enable that agentic commerce, which then allows AI agents to handle the entire journey on your behalf, whether it's comparing products, whether it's checking inventory and making the purchase. So that UCP really creates that common language that AI agent can then talk to different retailers and handle all the heavy work in the back end. I'm not going to go into a lot of details here, but as you can see, the idea is that on the consumer side, you have a very clear conversational interface, and then UCP is going to do a lot of steps that the shopper won't see. So that's still going to be built up, but even to check, like I said, inventory, but maybe check as well if I am a loyal member from a specific one of the retailers I want to buy, and maybe there is a better price for me. So it's a lot of steps that are happening behind. So it's really that underlying infrastructure that enables that agentic commerce and ensuring that interoperability between different agents, between different payment methods, between different apps, etc. So the UCP integrations and pilots are already happening in the US, Canada, and Austria with some of the big merchants there. So more to come, hopefully, in Europe. And while UCP really acts as that common language, like I explained, agentic checkout and the Buy From Me feature is an experience, built on top of that and supported by UCP. So as you can see here, you'll be able to track prices and ask the agent to buy it for you. So the agent will then really go on the retailer's website, fill out your shipping information and securely make the payment on your behalf. And I think for the out-of-stock problem that we all have encountered, so maybe you're looking, when I want to buy that new t-shirt, my size is never available. So if you're lucky, you can drop your email address to get a notification when it's back on stock. If you're lucky enough, it's going to be back on stock. You then get an email, happy. But by the time you click on that email and you're going to make that purchase, probably it's out of stock again. I've faced that situation many times. So here in this case, you could actually tell the agent that as soon as it's back on stock, you can make the payment for me because I really want that item. So I think that gives an opportunity for retailers really to actually already fulfill an order before it already happened. We're also launching business agents. So those business agents, you can train them on your own data, your own sales pitches, your own guidelines, your own brand history. And so the idea that it would speak your authentic brand voice, so that there is a difference being just a basic chatbot and really a digital representative of your brand. In this case, you can see that the person wants to buy some new tiles. It's also asking for dimensions about quantity. So the agent can really guide the consumer to understand what's best for, in his case, to buy. When we look at another example, even if you're looking about some courses, etc., about specific programs, in the end, for lead gen businesses, business agents will also help you to filter out your most qualified leads. My favorite one is the calling for local inventory. So, because probably it's more Gen Z and maybe millennials, but we don't like to call people or businesses or whatever, right? Like, so if we can let AI handle this for us, that's going to be great. So we can actually ask an agent to confirm the pricing and availability of certain products or services in nearby businesses and get the answer back by email. And the last one is around those direct offers. It's currently being piloted in the US. And it's a new way to present exclusive offers to shoppers so they can take action in the moment when they search. So it's really about providing specific discounts that are tailored to the search that is happening in real time and to the intent that we are capturing and context we have in AI mode. And so it's really based on individual users, and it can be, you know, one-on-one offers or bundle offers like, oh, you love that backpack, but if you buy another one, you'll get 20% discount. Or, you know, it can be linked with some loyalty program, etc. as well. So who is in the audience has already just used AI just to help you choose between products? A lot of people, I guess. And that has already really closed the gap between the discovery phase and the purchase. And I think AI agentic is even making that gap even smaller. Because as we saw, it's going to be able to anticipate your needs. By the way, that if you're talking and you say, oh, I'm going on a trip somewhere, it might propose you a suitable gear for that trip or an insurance to go with it. So it can really work on making all that heavy lifting as well to find the best products, the best recommendations for you. And it will also be able to take action and execute transactions with your permission.
Indeed, and right now, as Maud said, like the gap between discovery and purchase gets shorter, and actually people can search basically for anything they want. So what are the best ads? The best ads are the ones that answer the questions or the brainstorm or whatever the customer is or the user is looking for when they give like the most relevant answer to that. So from our side, we already have been working on improving the ads in terms of that we take into account better intent signals, but also that we try to guide the user quicker along the path from discovery to decision. But if we take a quick glimpse into the future already, near future, I would say, then there are some other interesting things coming, also a bit connected to the agentic part that Maud just talked about. But for example, indeed, like with the direct offer, you will be able to highlight your offer, not only based on price, but also on, for example, delivery times or loyalty. And like ads will be like more integrated with, for example, as here an example with Duolingo, and they will help users really guide decisions. So the way how search ads are looking right now will completely change in the coming weeks and months. Well, now the answer is like, okay, this is all interesting and it's good to get an idea of what's coming, but how as a business and together with CLICKTRUST can we prepare for this? And the most important, again, is to be the best answer to the question the user is asking and to be AI ready. And the newest feature, let's say, we have, the most relevant feature we have for this right now is AI Max. Some of you might know very well what it is, but we are aware that some have no idea what it is. So just high level, AI Max is a feature that enables your advertiser, your search ads to, first of all, show up when people search for these much longer, complex things. But also next to that your ad copy will adapt to make it super relevant to what the user is looking for, and that also they will be guided directly to the right landing page, so not just to the home page, for example, but for example to specific product page. As we know, there are a lot of banking, insurance clients here in the room. Just quick intro to AI brief. Basically, it's your possibility to steer the AI, because of course AI is just as good as the data you feed it with, and it will allow you to say, okay, we want to test AI Max, but for example, we really don't want to show up on these queries, or we really don't want this copy to appear in our ads, or on the other hand, we really want this specific copy to always appear. Just to give an example of how you still can remain that control while preparing yourself for how search ads are going to change. And then we always talked, like in the past 20 minutes, about how user searches are getting longer and how search ads are evolving. But maybe more specific, looking at Belgium, we see, like, if we compare like short and medium user searches with longer searches, which are 5 words or longer, we see that the longer searches actually grow almost double as fast than the short and medium length searches. And this is not only happening on search, but also on YouTube. And this is what Maud is going to talk a bit about.
Yes, let's deep dive into my favorite topic. So when you think about it, almost everything we do online boils down to the 4 behavior of searching, streaming, scrolling, and shopping. And that, the main goal as a marketeer is that you want to capture people's attention and intent into those moments. And that's where Google, together with YouTube, comes in play. And so the combination of both really put your brand in front of your customer at every single stage of their journey. And when you think about it, we're actually the only platform that can actually do so across those 4 behaviors. And we've mentioned it, we know that search engines just talks anymore. We are literally searching what we see. We've launched tools like Lens, Circle to Search, and they are actually creating brand moments of intense. Lens, the queries on Lens monthly are more than 25 billion queries. So it's creating that new wave of curiosity as well. And so how, as a brand, can you leverage that as well? Even users can now go on Google, Insights, YouTube Shorts. They can pause a video and instantly look up for products. So when you ask yourself, is this then streaming, scrolling, searching, shopping? It's actually all of them at the same time. And YouTube is becoming a real powerhouse for discovery. Okay, it gives brands a way to really mobilize that attention. In fact, 9 out of 10 people say that they discover things on YouTube they wouldn't find anywhere else. But creating attention is more than just getting your ads in front of the right audience. Every impression on YouTube helps to bring that brand and emotional context. So by the time that they're ready to buy, your brand feels like the most familiar option for them. And the technology allow us to combine that searching, scrolling, streaming, and shopping, but culture, what makes it stick. So it's if a major moment is happening, it's probably also happening on YouTube, driven by creators. And we have the World Cup launching soon, and it has already started. So let's watch a very quick video made by a YouTube creator that shows how creator videos turn moments into massive cultural moments online, and how creators are able to build that unique bond where their community and where they can have that special level of trust.
It started small.
Here we are, one of the elephants.
A place to tell stories and share them with the world. And then it grew. Now, if it's happening in the world...
I was watching curling, trying to figure out why the stone spins the way it does.
There we are.
Oh my God, we're here.
It's happening on YouTube.
100% agree. The Academy Awards are moving to YouTube.
The original home of creators.
This is the largest creator collab in history. Is this supposed to wobble this much? Or I'm tripping?
where trust.
So these two brushes are going to come in clutch for what we're doing.
I'm probably going to switch to this Moonstone Pixel 10 Pro as my main daily driver phone.
Leads to purchase decisions.
Your gym is so much cooler than mine. You don't have a gym. Exactly.
In ways you can't do anywhere else. Guiding fans.
I'll wear my courage just like you did.
From discovery.
It's not just Jimmy Johnson. It's James John.
To decision.
For an audience to interact with the content, you're communicating in lockstep with the brand.
Ready to get started?
Who has already worked with a creator or launched a creator partnership ad? That's what I thought. It's no surprise, but it still hurts. Anyway, so building on what we just saw, the moving, like creators are really doing something traditional ads just can't do, because they're building, that real, their real communities, and they have that loyalty within their fans. And we see that actually when a creator is actually recommending a product, users are 13 times more likely to search your brand then, and 5 times more likely to buy it. So it's mainly also because viewers are 40% more receptive to ads coming from their favorite creator compared to any other platform as well. So at Google, we've also worked a lot on helping brands to connect and to identify the creators they want to work with. And we've launched a creator partnership hub to help you with that. And it's more to come in the future as well. And good news. I like this slide because it shows that, YouTube's reach is actually massive, also in Belgium. It's reaching 85% of the adult population, which is around more than 8 million people. And from a Deloitte study from 2025 data, we, when looking at what video service Belgium use most on a weekly basis, YouTube takes the #1 position with 63%, outperforming Netflix and then also other local player. So the bottom line is simple. YouTube is not really an optional add-on anymore. It's really a pillar of the Belgian media landscape, and it's something you simply cannot afford to skip from your marketing strategy. And also, like marketeers, when they think about YouTube, they maybe only think about smartphones, etc. But the reality is that YouTube is also dominating the living room. And within that same study from Deloitte, you can see that the use of smart TV, which is not only YouTube, but still it's the fact that people are then watching YouTube or other services on their TV, is really booming in Belgium. So you can see a very big peak from 2024 to 2025. And that peak is mainly coming from the baby boomers. So baby boomers are finally getting into the digital, and we're very happy about this. And so it confirms that smart TV has become really a central hub for content consumption at home. And so if you think that the big screen is only good for high-level brand awareness, think again, because what we saw from all the YouTube ads on CTV globally, they drove more than 1 billion conversions. And if you want to show up on the big screen, you can use DV360 to do so, or other tools. But our secret weapon with DV360 is that now you can use the Google audience signals to power your media strategy with DV360. So you're not only then combining that premium feel of being on a television, but you're also combining that intelligent data of Google from search and other platforms we're on. So yeah, as you can see as well, the numbers speak for themselves. When you're doing so, you actually have a 50% increase in brand awareness and also in the campaign performance. But it's not, it's not only about ads and appearing on the big screen. There is another reason why YouTube, being present on YouTube matters more than ever. You might have seen it in the news earlier this year, but YouTube has actually passed Reddit as the #1 cited social platform inside AI-generated answers. Because a lot of people might only assume that AI, reads only articles and, link you back to forums. But actually, this says that AI models really like YouTube. And why do they like it? Because there are a lot of video content, qualitative content, a lot of step-by-step guidance, a lot of reviews, recommendations they can use. And so it's really important that when you create your video content on YouTube, you're not, only reaching today's viewer, but you're also training the AI, search engine of tomorrow to cite and recommend your own brand. And we see that people are turning a lot to YouTube to search more as well. Search, scream, scroll, etc., to ask more questions. So at I/O this year, GML events at Google, in May, we have announced Ask YouTube. And that's why we're completely reimagining the way you will be able to search on YouTube. It's already available for premium user in the US, hopefully rolling out soon to more globally so we can try it out as well. But long story short, Ask Google is like a bit of the AI mode version built into Google, meaning that you'll get summaries, they can summarize different videos, they can bring you straight away into the specific moment in the video that's most interesting for you, and you can ask follow-up questions as well, and you can take short videos, long video content, etc. So as you can see, this is changing a lot as well on the search landscape. And so our goal is, of course, to make those 4 behaviors of screaming, scrolling, shopping, and streaming, as frictionless as possible. And that's why we're continuously rolling out new formats to make, those ads more interactive and more shoppable. We have launched the product feeds, for example, and they're already driving great results. And now we're also expanding them into the CTV post ads. If you don't know what post ads is, it's actually a new type of ads. So whenever someone watch YouTube on their TV and they're pausing it for whatever reason, you can have your ad next to it. It's a nicer, non-intrusive way to put your brand out front. And then we're also linking, adding the checkout links also with that whole UCP story with the Universal Commerce Protocol to really make YouTube much more shoppable. So I want you to, when you think back to your media plans for next quarter, next year, probably that's coming soon, I want you to challenge yourself to look beyond the standard marketing playbook and to ask yourself, how is your strategy, adapting to balance still the standard even search ad and commercials you have, but also with more video and creator-led content? And is your video content actually structured and ready to win in an AI-dominated world?
All right, and to summarize it, be it on search, on shopping, on video, what it all boils down to is to be the most helpful, authoritative, and relevant ads or presence wherever the user is looking for you. To make it a little bit more practical as well, we give some guidance on what you could start working on. In terms of your website, for example, okay, make it exceptional, still very high level, of course, but the most important is to have all the relevant information there and to show your proof of expertise. And then super important as well, and I'm sure all of you are doing this already, is to collect first-party data, because this we can loop back into your advertising, and this is super valuable to connect with AI to get the best results. In terms of ads, like we said, the most important is to get their attention when users start searching in a completely different way. So we would recommend to activate and start testing with AI Max. And on the shopping side of things, to improve your data feed, make sure all the content is there also in terms of visuals, and to differentiate maybe not always on price, which we know is not always possible, but also on shipping and loyalty, for example. Then in terms of videos, like Maud also mentioned already, YouTube is more and more being cited by Google AI or AI in general. So videos containing like user reviews, explaining videos, how to do certain things, these are super useful to start working on. not only in terms of ads, but also organic videos. And then last but not least, and that also Maud tackled, is when like everything is possible right now with AI, users are looking for authentic feedback, authentic experiences and reviews from real people. So we really recommend to start thinking about collaborating with creators.
Any questions? Yes. We're a bit over time, but we can take time for some questions, right, Fabio? But maybe everyone is hungry. No questions? Where's the box? Where's the box?
That's all right, I can prove. Okay. So you said make your website exceptional, but the whole experience you showed at the beginning doesn't happen on the website, but everything happens in the chat. So how do you see that evolving in the future?
Yes, that's true. But right now, the final transaction in most cases is still happening on the website. And of course, the information that is on the website is being pulled back into this agenting, of course. So for now, it's still super relevant to and a crucial part of the funnel to have your website as good as possible.
No, I think you summarized it really well. Not really sure what the future is going to bring about that, but it's still a very concrete place today in the strategy that we should have. And also in this afternoon session, we will talk more about generative engine optimization, where we see that the website is still quite crucial.
But your website is maybe going to be less your own shop interface. It's just going to be that hardware where you can tell AI all the amazing things you're doing. So I think the role of the website is going to change, but it's still a very much necessary and needed platform.
More questions on the other side? Yeah, all the way in the end. I don't know where the micro is. Is somebody? Fine.
Good point. It was not the focus for today, but audio ads are still a thing, whether it's on YouTube or even on Spotify. So yeah, it can be through your DV360 strategy as well, where you can implement that so you reach the best reach and frequency. But yeah, it's still there.
Depends on the earning targets of YouTube, I think. Not the right place to ask the question. More questions? I think just to if you have more questions, let's ask them this afternoon. Thank you very much, Maud and Eileen, for the presentation. And Maud, sad to see you leave as our agency partner, but I'm very sure that Eileen will be fine also. But it was really awesome working with you the last couple of years, and really brought back to life the partnership that we have with Google. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll still be here.
Yeah. For lunch will be served where we had breakfast and coffee. 12:45, there is the performance of Burundian drummers. We have a deep connection with Burundi, as I explained, with the Fondation STEM already, and we support quite a few initiatives as well. And I'm married to a Burundian woman, so that also helps. And so please be back at 12:45 if you go outside, because you don't want to miss it. It's a really unique experience. Thank you very much, and see you this afternoon. Right. Welcome back, everyone. There's still some people walking in, but we'll give them a time. Well, they can do it in their own time. I hope you enjoyed the performance of the Burundian drummers, specifically just after lunch, because, you know, that's a good wake-up call. I'm not sure it's good for digestion, but the Burundian drummers, they're extremely famous. Obviously, it's one of the thing that they're most famous for culturally in Burundi. They love doing what they do, and if we would ask them to play an hour, they would have played an hour as well. And so yeah, our connection to Burundi is quite important. Like I mentioned, we have like the Fondation STEM that I showed you early this morning. What we did 3 years ago, we went there and we started giving trainings. So we did trainings on digital marketing. And one thing led to another, and there's now a team that we have there, which is working for Fondation Stam full time, doing digital fundraising. So they pilot campaigns from Burundi all over Europe. And they raised 200,000 euros last year just for Fondation Stam, which is making an absolutely huge difference. Fondation Stam also has their own Burundian drama team, not them, because, well, obviously they're based in Burundi. These guys are local here. And there we go. So that's a bit of the context here. It's got nothing to do with AI, but what I did enjoy, and I hope we've got it on the pictures, is the Burundian drummers jumping high, human energy, and just in the back it said what AI can do for you, which I thought was quite good. Anyway, sorry, that's your line. I stole it. Let's move forward with the building a performance engine. So I've got Mathilde here, who's the head of data and AI at CLICKTRUST, who will be co-presenting this together with me. I'm just going to do the intro, and then she will actually show you what we've built. So let's get started. So where we left off this morning, so Fabian showed you that experience. So the point was not to be speaking all day, but so the question that we try to answer this morning is expertise still wins. So how do you make expertise scale? So we obviously have our internal teams, but a lot of you have internal teams as well. Even complete digital marketing, media buying teams like Dieterin. Proximus does a lot internally as well. Telenet does a lot internally. And there's people here with both who are relying completely on agencies and who also have their internal team. So how can we make that scale? There we go. Why do you hire an agency at all? We've answered this morning. AI doesn't change the answer, it makes it louder. How can we amplify what we are doing? So the honest answer, like I mentioned this morning, is that everything that's automation is nice. It's a commodity. And for me personally, when I see what's going on LinkedIn today, it's all about automation, 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 and very little about creation of value or amplifying value. And like I mentioned, automation automates. So AI is now also automate stuff for you. So that means that it's a commodity. What isn't yet automated, maybe it will happen, is judgment. So that's built on years of experience. There's 35 of us. We're talking to each other each day. That's what you're actually paying for when you're paying an agency like CLICKTRUST. And so what we wanted to have is a solution to something that we haven't been able to solve easily before. So every single time when somebody leaves or somebody comes back, we have the same issue. And when somebody comes into the agency, we need to onboard them, just like in your companies. If you have a media buying team, you have all the procedures that they have to adopt as well. The knowledge is in people's heads. And when somebody leaves, the knowledge usually often goes with them, even if we try to document everything properly. There's old decks. Old decks. I've been building PowerPoint decks together with my team for the last 15 years, and I've never seen so much change in the last couple of months. The decks we've made 3 months ago are no longer relevant. Sometimes even the day of the training, you realize that you need to update them for stuff which was said just the day before. And so we wanted to have this knowledge, this way of doing things structured, queryable, and reusable. And that's how we started building the ideas of the performance engine. What we wanted is basically what our agency does, amplified. So the first thing that we had to make sure that our tool or our platform does is to make sure that it's cross-account and that it learns from similar patterns across different verticals, across different contexts. Not two competitors learning from each other, obviously. We have competitors here inside the room. You're all our clients. It's all happy days. Everything's fine. But the thing is, what we want is to structural challenges that can be recognized instantly. We want that to be taken into account. We also want it to be cross-platform. So it's all nice to have AI Max inside Google or to have Advantage Plus inside Meta. And all these different campaigns, all these different channels needed to be pulled together data-wise. We also needed something that was going to be cross-time. Insights from 2 years ago had to resurface when the brief resembles it, so that we don't have the problem that when somebody leaves, all the knowledge is gone. We want to keep that knowledge and make sure that it keeps on compounding. Then finally, we want it to be cross-brain. And this is the most important part, is when you think about an agency, or we think about a team, let's stop calling it an agency, but a team, is that the interesting thing happens next to the coffee machine. So the conversations next to the coffee machine. How can we make sure that we grab all these conversations that used to happen next to the coffee machine, but are now happening individually between people and their chatbots, which is, a lot of conversation that's just going into a machine. How can we pull that back out? So cross-account, cross-platform, cross-brain, and cross-time. And these were the things that we were thinking about. What are we going to build? And so we built basically the principle of a flywheel that keeps on compounding the more it's used by human beings. So the more that human beings use the tools, the more powerful it gets. And so what happens is that people encode expertise, and this is going to be demonstrated in a very clear way by Matilda afterwards. They encode their expertise through skills and context. System makes it retrievable and combines it with the client data as well, campaign data. Instantly retrievable. The agents draw on all this experience like it's a hive mind. And afterwards it's fed inside the loop whenever an action is taken. Whenever something is overridden or something is validated, it becomes stronger and stronger and stronger. So you basically have a flywheel that keeps on becoming more powerful. And so what happens is it amplifies two things. First of all, it frees our people to do more interesting things. And so the question that was asked this morning, do they want to be prompting all day? Well, actually the prompting, once you get the system and the data right, isn't that difficult because the prompting is just a simple chat conversation. Everything is already stocked inside the skills and the context. So the amount of prompting that needs to be done is actually quite limited. However, what we see is that it frees up a lot more time to talk about interesting things, to talk about strategy, to talk about media mix modeling and all the strategic decisions. If there's one thing that I've heard from clients over the last couple of years, is they're always complaining that their agency partners are not strategic enough. It's always tactical. And so what we want is something that allows us to put more time into that. Now, it sharpens the expertise, like I mentioned. Every decision is retrievable in real time so that we can keep on using it in the future and that it keeps on compounding. So every decision is retrievable in real time so that we recommend and how we execute are getting better, constant evolution. And so that's the why. How it works and the implications, I'll leave that to the person who's actually building it. Matilda.
Grab this one. Yeah, can you hear me properly? Yeah, great. So, how does it work? Well, Fabian explained the why. I will try to explain how we have built these things. So, this is basically the whole thing in one picture, more or less. You have 3 layers. First being the source of truth, which is where we're going to dump all of our data. By data, I mean all of the performance data, but also all of the context. So the slides we're presenting, the meeting notes that we have, all of this is into the source of truth, which is on Google Cloud. Then we have a second layer, which are the agents. The agents is basically the one that are going to read the data and come back to us with recommendations. And the third layer is the interface. The interface is where we're going to be able to prioritize the different type of recommendations that we're receiving from our agents. And also, just what Fabian has explained, where we'll be able to give feedback to the agent so that we can have better skills. I go to that, and we'll have better context. Next to this, you see here the backbone, let's say, of all of these 3 layers, because it goes through all of them, which is the CLICKTRUST ID. And it's maybe one of the most important things to understand so that you'll see how we're able to structure the data. So the CLICKTRUST ID, it's one identifier, one key with a couple of dimensions. So you see some of them here, but they are 10 in total. Client, campaign, wave, channel. We also have country, language, and so on. But what matters with the CLICKTRUST ID is that it's not just for platform data. So obviously, we're going to map all of the campaigns that we're launching against all of this dimension, give it a CLICKTRUST ID. But all of the other piece of information that we're receiving. So let's say, for example, that you have a meeting with a client. We have a meeting with a client, and they're saying, okay, we have an extra budget of 10K to put on this channel until the end of the year. all of this information is also going to be mapped against some of these dimensions. So we'll know that it's going to be for this client, for this campaign, on this wave, for this channel, and so on. So the CLICKTRUST ID gives us two things. First, everything that we have, all of the data that we have, become queryable and retrievable whenever we ask for it. And the second thing, and it's also going to answer a bit of the question of, is it even legal? It's that the client you see here is also what we're going to use as access. So you only have access to the data of the client you're working on, to the context of the data you're working on. So we have one identifier, the CLICKTRUST ID, that makes the platform powerful and also safe. So if we get back to the 3 layers, remember, first one being the data. In the data lake, we have different type of data. First is easy, it's the structured data. It's basically a report of all of the platform's media that we managing for our clients. Second one is semi-structured signals, still linked to the platform data. Think of auction insights, quality scores, all of that. Could also be like Facebook ads library that we're querying through the API, stuff like this. And then the last part is client context. So it's all of the information, as the example I gave you was a mail or a meeting, all of the information that we have about clients, all of the history that we built with them. So all of the slide decks, the information that are in the mails, and I'll show you how we can take that in. Everything that is said in a meeting, things like that. One thing that is really important for us is that by default, by design, we don't allow to have private data into the data lake. So the context then, everything that we telling to client, everything that we actually talking about, how does go into the data lake where there is multiple steps. First thing is a personal layer. So every employee has access to his own personal context. An email, a meeting, some things that you be a part of, first lands into your personal context. Then there is a validation gate. So before anything moves from the personal layer to the CLICKTRUST layer, the employee has to validate the information and to ensure that it's properly mapped against the different dimensions from the CLICKTRUST ID. So we talked about one campaign, maybe you name it one way and the clients name it another way. We need to make sure that what is going to go into the layer of the context that we all share is mapped properly against the dimension that we have. And then until there, when everything is validated by the employee, then it goes to the CLICKTRUST layer. So we don't have nothing raw, we don't dump 500 mails a day into a data lake. We make it validated by the employee themselves. Layer 2 is about the agents. So we have different skills. Skills are basically how we do things at CLICKTRUST. How do we set up a campaign? How do we optimize the search campaigns? How do we report on it? These skills, they're client agnostic. So it means that we're not building skills for a client specifically, we're building skills on our processes. And then when we activate it, either because there is an alert and we have a couple of rules that activate skills, or because an analyst will do it, they first read all of the context that we've stored and mapped properly against the CLICKTRUST dimension. And because of that, because he knows how CLICKTRUST is doing an optimization on a search campaign and what are the specific rules for these specific clients, it's able to give you a proper recommendations. And then, right after, flywheel in motion, okay, should have been white icon, I guess, the human will have this recommendation. It's going to be structured and explained, which means that we'll see in the recommendation what is it about, why, on which data is it going from, and then it's going to be validated, accepted, corrected, feedbacked by the human itself, and this feedback will get back into the machine to update either the skill itself or even the context. Layer 3 is the interface. So this is what it looks like. You see that basically, the first job of the interface is to show what you should be looking at. There are a lot of things that are working behind that we don't see in the back end, let's say. And here, it's a clean way to say, okay, you starting this morning, there is one thing you should fix, and we should start with that. That's one of the job of the interface. Second one is to power the flywheel, to be able to have here a place where you're going to chat with your recommendations, you're going to give it feedback, and this feedback is going to be stored in some way, and we're going, for some of the feedback, request some validations. I'll show you that later on. And then these feedback and the different update that is requiring from the skills or the context will be reintroduced into the performance engine. Are you still all following me? Yeah? Okay, good. To answer the question, is it even legal? Well, there are multiple parameters, 6 things that make it responsible by design. All of the infrastructure is under our control. So it's on the Google Cloud, BigQuery, European hosting. We don't use the data that's there to train any external model. There is no personal data coming into it. And all of the client context, they're isolated by this client dimension, meaning that we don't have everyone accessing all of the data. Every decision that is made is based on human judgment, and we don't push anything live without having a human validated it. Let me show it to you, right? So we took a use case. Obviously, I had to change a bit the name of the clients, change the data, so none of the data that you're going to see are any from our clients. But what you're going to see here is how we act on recommendations of our agents. So the use case is basically optimizing a search campaigns. And you will see that there is a recommendations that we're going to feedback it. We'll see where the feedback is logged in and how it's going to be validated by someone else before it goes back into the machine. Hopefully it works. That was a scam since the beginning. Oh, wait, no it doesn't. Can I ask you, the technical people, to click on it for me? Yeah, great, thank you. So here it is. Good morning, you Marie, you are a senior analyst at CLICKTRUST and you're opening the performance engine in the morning. So you see your clients here. As I said, nothing is real. And you see what you are supposed to be looking at. There is one big fix that you're supposed to start your day with, is that there is a campaign that has a cost per lead that is above the target. And you'll see that there is a recommendation waiting for you because this specific client has also more budget this month, and the agent is proposing to increase the budget, which if you know a bit about search, or if you know in general, we wouldn't really follow this recommendation. So we're going to open it, and you see here the different information about the client, and very important, you see what are the different data, the different KPI that has been taken into account to be able to formulate the recommendations. First thing is that it shows that the cost per lead is too high, that you have less impressions, you have a higher search impression share, and your CPC is increasing. Basically what it means is that the market, the search volume that is available is shrinking right now. And so pushing more budget towards it, putting more budget on a daily basis is not really going to increase or improve your performance. If you go down a bit, that's what she's going to do in a minute, I guess. You will see that we also have this KPI very clearly on graph, so we can see if the trend is going from day to day or if it's just one peak. So these are the 3 main KPI that have been looked at to produce the recommendations, and there is also the possibility to have kind of a small dashboard just on the issue that we have seen. And so it doesn't really make sense to keep on pushing budget if we are at saturation and the cost per lead is too high. So we're going to chat with the recommendations. You're opening it and you see already what is the reasoning behind it. And you see that some of the information is taken from the context. It's right there in orange. The mouse will go over at some point. And what the analyst is going to do here is that reading this first and then giving a feedback to it, saying, okay, first thing, my client is very sensitive about the cost per lead, so we should never be above it. So you shouldn't propose something that could make this increase even more. And the second feedback that she's going to type is that, well, if you have a search campaign, search impression share is at 90%, your cost per lead is already above target, doesn't really make sense to keep on pushing budget. We should either accept that we're not able to spend the full budget, or we can try to find more volume, to open to more keywords, to try to see if there is any places where, any keywords where it would bring more conversions. And this is basically the feedback you have here. And then the agent, because he knows how we do things, is going to look at how many conversions we had in the past. Do we have enough volume of conversions to increase the volume, to have more broad keywords? Yes, we do. And so it's going to prepare a list. So out of this chat, 3 things. There is a skill update, because we're saying if we are at saturation on search, we shouldn't push more budget. So this skill update, it's going to be taken, validate by here Marie, that is talking with the agent, and sent for validation to the track leader of Google Ads. So in ClickTrust we have track that are specialized in specific field, because they are the one in charge of having a double validation of the skill update that we're going to make. Then we have a context update saying, well, the client is very sensitive about the cost per target. So we shouldn't go above that. Apparently it wasn't that clear for in the context for the agent to make a recommendation on. So here, again, there is an update to do on the context and to send to the client strategy director, who is going to validate that on the ClickTrust side. Last thing to do out of this conversation is that we could have a list of keywords to add into our campaign. So the agent, based on the data that is in the account, based on the keywords that we already have, is going to prepare this list of broad match keywords to add to the campaign. All of this validate, we got back to the alert and we see that the keyword expansion is already ready. And so next step is to validate that the keywords that we have here actually make sense. So we can review it, open it, and for each of the keyword, accept or reject. And by rejecting, we're also adding a piece of information to the context. Reject some of the keywords that we don't want to add to the campaign. So you see it here. We don't have jet ski insurance, why not? And this will close the task. Yeah, everything has been done. We'll monitor later on, mark complete. The last thing I wanted to show you, because it shows the flywheel in motion, is the validation part. So you see the task isn't there anymore, great. And she's going to go into validations. So what are the type of validations that a senior analyst is going to give at ClickTrust? First thing is that as a senior, there are some other members in the team, junior, meteor, and she will have to look at the decision that has been taken by these other members to validate that the reasoning is correct. So you see it here. She is a senior, she sees the reasoning, she can validate it. And then the second part, and you see it here and you also see it here, she's in the social media track, she's a senior, she's leading it. She also will have to validate or not some update of the skill of meta here, doing meta campaign, some exclusion in audiences. She will have to validate that so that we can take that back into the skill, and the skill is getting better for the next time people are using it to set up a meta campaign. And then on the bottom here, you see the update that she has requested. So there is the Google Ads skill update. This is the context update for the client out of the conversation she just had. And here is just a past one. So that more or less shows how all of the theory, the vision that has been presented is actually working in motion. What did you just see? Well, you see that we have access to the reasoning, that we have the skill, we have the context, we know where it comes from. You also see that the correction, the feedback, it's captured and how it's going to be validated by other people before pushing it back into the system. So Why is this not only better for us, because it's not that much of prompting, indeed, but why is it also better for you? It's because, well, now we can offer a senior judgment on every account. We have decision that from different feedback compound together, that we're building this intelligence. We can be way more faster. All of the things that you've seen there, if we had to do that into the interface of Google Ads, we have to click a lot of different buttons, right? Here, all of the information comes in one place and we're able to feedback it there. We have full transparency, so we can see the reasoning, but we also see who has validated what, which type of validation we need for each of the updates, and what that happened. And then it also gives us more time, just as Fabian said, to spend time on what actually matters for our clients. Strategic input, media mix modeling, deep dive, all of this type of tasks that sometimes we have to postpone by a bit because they are more urgent reports to build through the interface. So basically that's the whole point. Compounding expertise, built responsibly with human in the loop, and this is the idea behind the performance engine. Thank you. Are you on time, Morris? Do you guys have questions?
How close are you to production? Or is it, that's the demo? Is it live or?
It's almost live for 2 clients. So we building it, the architecture is there. We had obviously to take a proof of concept, take 1 client, but the architecture, we know basically moving all of the other clients to this tool. How we doing this, and the first step is basically I don't know how many people have worked in agency. We have big budget sheet. Well, you also have that at client side, right? You have big budget sheet, and we need to translate the current budget sheet and different formats that we have into the new template, so that we have this backbone. This is where we're defining the CLICKTRUST ID, where we're able to have all of our triggers saying, okay, this is the budget we have for this month, this is the pacing, this is the objectives, this is the target that we have. Are we on track or not? This is where everything starts, and so we know moving all of our clients towards this.
And you mentioned that data is not training other AIs. So is the AI running locally or on a cloud?
No, it's on Google Cloud.
There's going to be a lot of restrictions in a couple of weeks with the Google APIs as well, restricting access also to other APIs from what I understand. And I think that's a key thing there as well. I mean, the entire infrastructure is built on Google Cloud for a very good reason, because that gives us full control over permissions, roles, who can see what. That part of the infrastructure we control, and I think that's necessary for anybody in the room who wants to create their own infrastructure as well, is you need to control the infrastructure. Now, the models that are being used are interchangeable, but obviously whatever you put inside these models can also be used by them to train. So in the next couple of weeks, what we are going to be doing is trying to select not only different models that we put inside of it based on cost efficiency. I think you all know how Anthropic is increasing its costs right now. Google is playing the game by reacting, by making things cheaper, which is cool, thanks. But one of the key criteria is going to be also vetting what happens with the data that is given to the models as well. Yeah. Just before you.
Yeah, this is a pure internal tool, right?
Actually, it started obviously as an internal tool, but a lot of the people here, you have internal teams, and so the idea is very simple, and we have the tool that we are using internally. For the clients who want to use it inside their own infrastructure, we have the head of data and AI right here, with the guy who is also coding it, but he doesn't speak to human beings. He was here. Some of you might remember, yeah, that's his colleague. What they are doing is also making sure that module by module can be customized and installed on client side on Google Cloud and Azure. Well.
So change your way of reporting to your clients as well.
Yes, well, the reporting structure as such, so weeklies, monthlies, QBRs, and all that is of course still respected, but the reporting is 90% prepared today by the tool itself. Yeah, so that's going to be a massive time saver. Yep. Just behind you.
When you talk about customization, of course here the focus are the paid ads. It's also possible to customize adding other features like SEO, because in the end they are running together.
We started with, and we use this use case because it's also an easy one to show, but everything started with the data that you have available. So as soon as we do have the right data into the data lake and that it's structured properly, then the activation and the module that we can build, I mean, they're limitless.
And do you also, I'm assuming that you also participate, you are also involved on how to clean and structure this data, the gross data, the raw data?
Yes.
Yes.
You wait. What is the question? There was a big conversation between Nico and me, saying, okay, what are the dimensions that we need? What are the key that we need to be able to get back to the data that we have to be able to answer questions? Up to a certain limit, yes, I was included.
Okay.
I think the question is. The question sounds like, do you clean our data for us? Is that the question?
Or guide us on how to do this.
Yeah, when I showed the slide this morning with the silos, talking about media mix modeling, the same thing that was blocking your media mix modeling is going to block you from doing this. And so the first part is indeed everything related to the cleanup of the data. And this is something, yes, where we have to intervene if we want this to work. It's also the most complex part of getting access to. But obviously this kind of implementation requires on-premise presence and requires the team that's implementing this to be integrated, for sure.
Okay, thank you.
All the way in the back.
Thank you. If I understand correctly, you're feeding the model with internal information, knowledge, historical knowledge of people, processes, PDFs, whatever slides. Are you also linking it to external sources, making expertise on the market available for the tool to learn? Because we're in a rapid changing market, historical knowledge is useful, but it's not alone, I think. How do you see this?
Well, first, we didn't do that because we want to build it on our own, to have our own knowledge inside the model. We don't want to just use what is basic for everyone and put that into the way we do things. So that's the first step. One of the modules that we discussed, and this isn't built yet, is having kind of a monitoring. Because what I think is very important and what we could miss sometimes is to make sure that everything that gets out, all of the new things, the new parameters, the new features that you can test, we have a view on that, and we can also test it, give it to the tracks internally, making sure that it works, and include that into the strategy that we're proposing to the clients. And so this part, for sure, it's on the planning. It's not built yet, but taking what's outside without having validated doesn't really match our way of doing things.
But testing it is probably
definitely
is, but then it's more a manual thing, if I understand correctly, for now.
Yeah, monitoring it won't be manual, but then making sure that we're able to test it, see if there is a good results out of this new feature of testing AI Max, what do you want to put inside, stuff like this. This definitely, it's a part of the testing approach that we have to do and that we're doing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
More questions? In the middle.
How do you go about the change management? It's quite a change. Roles are changing, I think, for many people. So you said you had zombies, laggards. So how do you go about changing their mindsets?
You tell no one which category they belong to. That's the first step. No, we built it with the original, with the current structure in mind, actually. And so ClickTrust is built with different levels of seniority and roles. So you have junior, media, senior. Seniors validate what medias and juniors do, and so to a certain extent, you have a client strategy director who is supposed to understand and guide the context. So the strategy becomes the context, the tactical part becomes the skill. The validation is what we had in place already. What we're doing, and is I remember this from, I used to be in banking. I used to work for the Bank of New York, and I remember we had a huge amount of manual systems then, which we used to settle transactions. I was in everything related to securities clearance. Settling transactions in the evening with the GSP G57. I still remember them out of my heart, the different codes. And then we moved to a system which was queue-based. So it basically did everything for you and had to validate and pull things together. And what I'm seeing is exactly the same thing here, which is actually how the vision was built with this idea in mind. I think the transition will go quite easily because all of the stuff that is being done manually behind is still being done, but the reasoning is still there. So I'm thinking that the change will be quite okay. Yeah. That's how I see it. Now, the change that will happen in the Bank of New York wasn't okay all these years ago. So maybe I'm being too optimistic. I think we are at the end of these questions. Okay, good. Thank you very much, Matilda. Next. Next on stage we have Simon, who's right here. Simon is one of our senior analysts and who is very, very busy with everything related to generative engine optimization. And so, floor is yours.
Yeah. Let's start, maybe if I can see you all in the room, with a show of hands. Who has heard of GEO in the room? Okay, so almost everybody. Who has implemented within your company a GEO project? Doesn't have to be your team particularly, but so maybe a third. And then who has achieved results while doing this? Okay, no one. 2 persons. I hope our clients. So we see a bit the issue. We'll try and move away from hype to reality. It's, I think, what Google said earlier this morning, that we are shifting from theory to practice. And that's what we're doing today. And I'll walk you through the theory at first. So the people who are very familiar with it, bear with me. And then we'll see the theory applied to an actual case. I'll start with this quote, which I think is quite powerful about the shift, because yes, Google still exists. Yes, Google still captures more traffic than ever. But there is a shift in the way we do see the information. And so that's a quote from someone that I would recommend you to follow, Mac from Tracker.ai. And it says, in 2026, if you aren't in the AI's first synthesis, you don't exist. There is no page 2 in AI answer. So was there a page 2 in SEO? This is a discussion we could have after. But indeed, the results that you see in a LLM-produced answer are much shorter. So you're fighting for a smaller amount of spots. And this shift is real, and it's real even in Belgium. So we're getting there also quite fast to this shift in search behavior. And I tried to put some data about the Belgian numbers, because this is something that we often lack when we see presentations. So this is about our small and beloved market. So 45% of the Belgian actually already regularly use an LLM. So the daily usage is quite high. And it's across all age categories, so it's reaching all of you in the room. 31% of Belgian businesses, so if you're into B2B, that might interest you, have already integrated AI in their workflows. And then something else about the entire search spectrum is that nowadays in Belgium, in Europe, 60% of the searches are zero-click. So if you went to trainings at ClickTrust, you've seen this term zero-click since maybe a decade already, but it is moving even further and faster with AI overviews and AI mode. It's even higher. I think the numbers were released 2 days ago. In the US, it's close to 70% that don't lead to a click. still a few other numbers for the Belgian market, which I think are relevant, so you get the full picture before we move on with the case. So the usage in terms of different LMs that people use, it's still dominated by ChatGPT, but you see it declining slowly but surely, and the orange is Claude. So yeah, every semester, every 3 months, every quarter, one of these AI companies comes up with the strongest, the smartest model ever. So those figures are moving, but for the Belgian market, what I think is relevant is also seeing that it is quite scattered. There is one outlier, but the rest is scattered, and Microsoft Copilot is quite high, mostly because of companies forcing or enforcing their employees to use those solutions. So that's something important to keep in mind when you do a geo project. So yes, that's the shift. People are no longer searching, they're asking, they're talking with a chatbot. The answer is no longer an index of blue links. You don't fight to be number 1 of 10 blue links. You want to be mentioned, cited in an answer, where the people will actually follow up by talking with the chatbot. So you want your data to be fed into LLMs to advise people and lead up to you. Yeah, as I was saying, the number of spots of seats to appear in these searches is also more limited than the 10 pages index. Here, more theory. What you need to remind of this slide is that the success metric is really changing. So you're not fighting to the number 1 spot, but you want the citation probability to be as high as possible. So that's something that you need to keep in mind when you're doing geo projects. And actually, all of this is not brand new. So many of you in the room are familiar with SEO. We treat it at ClickTrust as really a next chapter of SEO. And that's why when we do a project, we consider it as one. We combine both. We don't want to hurt our SEO rankings while doing geo. So you want to monitor it as a whole. And that's why we call it SGeo. So another acronym for you to keep in mind. Yeah, it's just also saying why it's not disappearing, because LLMs actually, when you ask something to an AI, it will more often than not search for indexed results on the web, almost always actually. So that's still SEO. And it's also the same 3 pillars that are applied, and you'll see the same 3 pillars that are applied to geo existed in SEO. So that's why project-wise, and I'm not going to talk about process management today because it's a bit boring, but process-wise, it's really important that you understand that within your team, and if you work with an agency, that the first job that you have is to keep the right people together, to integrate the processes to the ones that exist, and to do a proof of concept, as we did for our performance engine with your geo project. So yeah, as I was saying, most queries actually lead up to SEO, and if you look at this beautiful graph produced by ChatGPT, you'll see that only when you're asking about mathematics or codes, the models that are actually pre-learned will provide you the answer. The other types of queries will lead up to an actual search. So something to keep in mind. So what we do with all of this context, if we start a project for one of you, we start with understanding the business, and that's basically your job. So you understand the personas, the USPs, the different segments, the verticals, the pain points that your clients might have or your prospects might have. With this information, we can go to the next step, which is prompt research. Again, nothing new. The best proxy for prompt research is actually keyword research. So that existed. The main difference with prompt research is that for the moment, we don't really have a lot of volume data. It's starting to appear on the markets, but we don't have a lot of volume data on what people type when we do long tail queries in their LLM or the new search bar that they use as an LLM. Prompt research is where it starts to become difficult and where you might actually need a little help. As it's arbitrary, everyone can have an idea of how to create a prompt, but you should keep some best practice in mind, and we'll go to it later on as we discover the case. Then we do the visibility audits. So visibility audit is opening SEMrush for a geo, basically. So you open a tool where you know how you are doing compared to your competitors and how you are appearing, how many times do I appear in ChatGPT, basically, and other LLMs. So those 3 first steps, it's quite easy. You might need some advices to do it, but you can probably already launch that project without too many resources. And then the implementation and the optimization is where it gets a little tricky or trickier, because the technical optimization will be a one-off for most of these implementations, but the content part, and that's something that we see when we are delivering projects, it is actually a lot of work, a lot of coordination. Making all of the existing content of, let's say, a big bank in Belgium is a lot of implementation, a lot of people involved. And so this is something that will be taking a lot of energy and resources from a company. Then links and citation, you'll see it in practice during the case that we're going to see for Volkswagen. So going into a bit more depth about what we do, understanding is mostly something that you'll do and that maybe even other people in your marketing department will provide you with the information. It's mostly coming up with personas and your different verticals. Prompt research is something where you need a little bit of expertise. Why? Because you need to keep in mind this rule that will be very important when you launch the audit, is that the prompts that you put into your audit tool need to trigger a list of branded responses. You can put more generic prompts, but then what do you measure if you can't measure the number of times that your company is listed? You can measure the number of times that your domain is cited, yes, but first when you launch the actual project, you need to keep this in mind so that you can actually measure a share of voice and compare to your competitors. Then the persona-based approach is something that we implemented in our tool, AI Viz, that we created internally. The basic idea is that a conversation with an LLM is never completely empty. You have a profile, you're logged in, you talk with it every day, every hour maybe. So what we wanted to do is to replicate that, and using the persona, saying answer for this profile, we could basically hack this and not send a query into a blank API of an AI company. So that's really important, and it's something that a few companies do, but it's really our approach also in the tool that we built. Then query fanouts, that's if you go one step further, we'll see with the Volkswagen case. It's also because, as I said, when you actually use an LLM, it's doing SEO queries with paraphrases, and that's where you want to appear, and that's where your content gaps is actually living. So that's where you want to create a dedicated page for. So step 1 and 2 done, we move to the tool where we can actually see if we're doing well, if we are being cited by AIs. First will be your brand setup. So that's if you use a tool like ours, you put all the ways that you can write your company. There can be many for some of the companies. So all the aliases, you put the competitors, and also the number of models that you want to audit. There are, for the moment, a lot of players, as we saw in the Belgian markets, that are present. So you can choose these, keeping in mind that this will influence also the number of tokens that you use. So it will always be, when you do an audit, it will always be a multiplying factor, of all these dimensions. So the more you audit, the more it will also cost during the audit. Prompt mapping, that's something we've done just at the step before, but at this stage you can already see, okay, for which prompt am I appearing, for which prompt am I not appearing. Then we're already jumping into the actual metrics that we can see in a tool like this. And the first one is the visibility score. So it's quite easy to understand. It's the number of times that my brand is mentioned on the total queries. So the multiplying factor that we did, we're going to do basically a division and have a percentage of times that we appear. Then 2 other metrics that are important, because as humans, we have a bias to go towards what's ranking in first position. It's the rank, the position, and also the sentiment. So how is AI talking about me? It's not the same to say, okay, this bank has the worst app on the market, or this bank has the greatest and most friendly customer service. So that's something that you can also monitor if you start doing a geo project, and that can also feed into other departments. If you talk with your product team or your customer service team, you can probably highlight problems or stuff that people say about you that you can fix faster. Then the technical bits, quite fast. One thing that is really important and is quite a fast lever to put when you start a project is the schema. So if you're familiar with schema, it existed already for SEO. But what you can do is add it for FAQs specifically, because FAQs is how the models are trained and is how people are typing. And so if you put the right question on your pages and then an answer, you will be cited for this answer. Putting schema is also important just by keeping in mind this rule about AI crawlers, that AI crawlers are lazy readers, even lazier than us. So anything that is structured well and that has the same repetitive way of saying things, like Wikipedia or Reddit, will be cited a lot. So that's one way to see it, and always keep this in mind for the way you write or the way you structure your pages. You have to keep that in mind. To do that at scale, you don't have to code for every page a schema alternative. You can use plugins or connectors, depending on your CMS, to do that at scale and faster. Then the last part is also a one-off. So for the technical pillar of Geo, I said it was a bit faster than the content, which will drain more resources. That's because those tasks are mainly one-offs and one-off checks. So it's just making sure about the sanity of your current situation. Am I not disallowing any crawlers on my robots that TXT? Is my code not hidden behind JavaScript? Because currently the crawlers of AIs cannot read code that is not HTML. So those are just sanity checks that you do at the beginning. Then content, a bit heavier slide. So for the first part is about any sentence on your website. So you want to make sure that it's atomic. It's a word that comes from the design industry. It's basically making sure that you use numbers, data, sources that will not make an LLM hallucinate and that will put up the tendency of an LLM to cite you. The example here, VW sold 109,000 ID4 in Belgium. I hope that's even more. It beats something that is a bit more fluffy marketing, that we are the leader in this segment, that will not be cited by an LLM because it's not specific enough. Then dedicated pages. So if you are familiar with the concept of content depth, it's exactly that. So when you have seen that you have content gaps on your website, you want to create the pages that actually answer for this gap. So making it more specific will help you being cited, especially as the prompts become more, go down the funnel and people are actually ready to convert. That's where you want to have pages answering those prompts. Structured formats, again, lazy readers. So an AI crawler will like bullet points, best of lists, comparison tables, and those need to be in HTML also. So if you have a page where you have a comparison table, but it's actually an image, it won't be read as easily than an HTML comparison table. That's also the FAQs. So we mentioned the FAQs again and again. That's really important because that's how the models are trained. It's question answer, and that's what people type. So this is also something that we do push when we start a project. Then having AI as a co-pilot. So when you've seen where you are and you start implementing the new content to answer to your needs, to optimize your geo visibility, you can use AI. You are entitled to. But you always need to review it, and that's where the workflows are quite heavy, especially if you are in a sector that is quite regulated, like banking, insurance, or even the car industry. You always have legal people review your content, and so that's where the workflows have to be approved and efficient before starting the actual project by launching a proof of concept and testing that everything can scale. Also, you can use what we do at ClickTrust with the performance engine. You can use custom GPTs or gems to save all of this context and to not have to reinvent the wheel anytime you produce content, and to say, okay, this is the tone of voice, these are my brand colors, this is something you cannot say because otherwise the FSMA will enter the building and shut it down. So all of this, you can save it into your custom LLMs. And then also content-wise, I put it here, even if it's a bit more precise of an example, but headers are really important. So H1 and H2 is the main optimizations you can do on your pages, adding a short summary after your H1 and converting your H2s into questions that people type. So all of that, keeping in mind that you don't want to remove the keywords that you've worked for during 20 years to put the right keywords with high keyword volume on your pages. So it's also a fine game that you're playing here because you don't want to shoot in your own foot while doing this. Then 6, authority. How can you build authority when there are no backlinks? There are basically two situations. One is you already have backlinks to your site and you convert these into back citations. So you make sure that the brand is cited and that the brand and the products are mentioned on the page where you have the anchored link. And then digital PR. So many of you work for big corporations where you have people doing this. So it's also a lever that you can activate, but it asks for a bigger lever because bigger resources to actually work with PR firms. The rest is also just advices, and keeping in mind that what you read and what you've been reading since this presentation is about geo 1 year later, what you've read about saying that Reddit and Wikipedia are always cited, etc. It's definitely not true. For a bank or an insurance in Belgium, it will be a comparator or test achat. It will very rarely be a forum that is not mainly used in Belgium. For your use cases, you need to check the sources, and that's where the audit comes in handy to see what third-party websites can I influence. So is it actually Reddit? Is it YouTube for a car? It can be YouTube with all the comparisons that people do. Reviewing cars and comparing two models. So that's something that you can see during the audit, and you have to keep in mind that it's not just Reddit and Wikipedia, basically what we were seeing 1 year ago. And then repurpose the content. It's also about trying to work efficiently. So if you have the content on site that you own, you can put it to a site that you don't own. So repurposing what you have and making sure that you send new content to third-party websites. Seeing this, you're not the only ones thinking about geo. So if you want to launch a new business, digital PR might be something that has traction. So we do see that it has an impact on the entire industry with the interest they got quite late, actually, when people started doing geo optimization. So that was all the theory. In practice, does it work? So we're going to see the case for Viwi and Dieteren. We treated it as one project. What we started with is the prompt inventory. So we came up with the right prompts to audit our visibility in RankShift in this case. We could also see the baseline, how do we compare to competitors, and how do we perform on the different models. So that's just a small example for the electric segment. How were we doing? Quite well, actually, across the two languages. There is one line where it wasn't doing so well. And so that's where putting an audit into action can be different. And that's why I think there were maybe 1 or 2 hands still up when I asked if people had an actual impact on the geo visibility. So that's what you need to do when you have the information. It's taking the action. So there we saw that there was a gap in the content, and we actually created the dedicated pages. So about the technical implementations that we did a schema markup rollout on all the model pages. We made sure that AI can access all the different funnels. So that's also linked to what Google presented about the web becoming more agentic and making sure that you don't miss out on an opportunity because the agent cannot convert. In a few months, probably people will be already ready to ask for a test drive for a car through their agent. Maybe not buying a 20K car, but actually starting the process will be probably done by LLMs, and it's already possible to do it via agents. For SEO, we also restructured the internal linking specifically for the electric cluster, because as we saw, there were some gaps there. Then for the content, we worked on the charge, autonomy, and pricing landing pages. Pricing is very important because you do want to control what LLMs tell about your offering. So those pages are very important for all the sectors that you might work in. And then the good old FAQ section. So we added these, and we added these based on the prompt research that we did. So we took in the information that we had and we put on the page of Volkswagen. Then citation. So what did we do? Basically this. So we went from this on the left to an actual paragraph with the brand cited. So we kept the original link juice of the SEO link, and we optimized it also for LLM visibility. And so at this point you might ask, okay, that's nice the theory, but did it work? And so if we look at the numbers, and here I'll have to add the baseline number because Claude didn't put it in my slides. So the baseline number for both languages was 30.9, if I remember correctly, the message from Enrico. We are now way above targets for both segments, and way above the baseline, but also about the targets that we agreed on when launching the project. So it means that in a Dutch query, in a Flemish query, we appear almost 1 times out of 2 when people look for a car. So those were the geo results, and I kept this slide also about the good old SEO because it's not dead, it's still there. We managed to get also improvements for the SEO. So that's quite interesting, especially if you look at terms like this, where we actually went to page 1. So coming from not ranking at all. So that's quite impressive, especially if you look at the volume of those keywords. So we entered this, and yeah, if we look at the targets that we had put, we're twice above the targets for SEO and just above target for the Flemish segment. So what's next? We can always do more. Prompt revision to make sure that we are always aligned with the business goals of VW. Electric was probably the focus and will be the focus for the next few years, but it can shift. You might enter with a new product or something that you want to focus on. Identify the final queries, so that's very important. That's where, as you saw, you can identify the content gaps and make sure that you have content that answers to the most relevant queries that people do. Then build these pages to actually match with these queries, and continue with the projects that we have on backlinkings and back citations, especially from high authority domains, which we saw had a big impact. Some myth check, so something that 1 year ago was along with the hype that we could read, LLMs.txt, not a ranking lever. There is no AI vendor that actually backs it up, so no reason to focus on that. We put other levers that you can activate, but this is not backed by any data of having impact. You can see it as a macro approach to putting schema on your pages, but a macro approach that has no data to back it up. So not the first thing we would do. And then, yeah, a bit frightening slide about how the web industry is changing. So numbers from earlier this week. So yeah, for Geo, you do need to update your slides quite often. The CEO of Cloudflare was assuming that bots would dominate humans in terms of traffic by 2027, and it actually did it last week. So yes, we are entering into an agentic era where the content that you do on your website has to be readable and extractable by those machines. So that's something that changes a bit the approach about a web page, and that was interesting from the previous conversation. So yeah, this is something that we briefly discussed during the Google presentation about the new protocols that you need to put in place. It's good that you exist, but beyond search, you also want people to be able to convert on your website. And that's where all those protocols and making sure that the machines can interact with your data comes in handy. So another impactful quote, be the answer, not the afterthought, but actually be the answer and the afterthought. If people continue to ask about your brand, you want to be both. Thank you for your attention. Any questions? I was very clear.
Thank you very much, Simon.
Thank you, everyone.
Then we have the final presentation of the day. Before we have drinks, the drinks are also on the other area with some nice refreshments and some beers. After a long day of slides, I think that's welcome, and it is a Friday. So the last part is related to the question that we've asked multiple times. How do you get the people to adopt? Well, one of the key things is this platform that we've built. So back to Mathilde, and there you go.
Thank you. So I'm not going to reintroduce myself. I know I'm the one between you and the last drinks. You are the one between me and my birthday party, so I would say it's a fair game. All right, so before I start, full disclosure, I'm about to demo something, an app in production that I did not write any single line of code for. And basically, it turns out to be the whole point of this talk. So from multiple slides to interactive courses. This is the story of an internal tool that we've built with AI, obviously, to fix a problem that I think most of the agency might have, and maybe on the client side, is that our knowledge was kind of a mess. So let me start with this. Met our new analyst, day 3. She's coming into the office and she received the first task she has to do on her own. Set up a search campaign. And she's told, well, it's easy, just follow the process. The deck is on the drive. So she does exactly what she has to do. She finds the deck on the drive, she follows all of the slides, 500 slides, right? And she carefully set up the campaign, step by step. And then it goes to a senior for review, and it looks like, well, she built it right, but following a deck of 2022. So, well, she did kind of everything right, but the job will have to be redone. The confidence that she has takes a hit, and if you multiply this by every newcomer that we have, well, you see where the problem is starting, right? So the problem was not really about a bad document, it's the whole system. It's basically our know-how, the way we do things that lives in training slides that we give internally, training slides that we gave externally, Excel, checklist, we have Word document, it's spread in Drive, Asana, or project management tool. Some people inboxes, and to be fair, sometimes some people's mind. So that gave us 2 chronicle problems. First one being, well, it's very hard to find the latest version of something. And second one, it's very hard to keep it up to date. And there was another problem on top of it, it was the format itself. You have 500 slides to go through, so it's very passive, right? And if onboarding means that you have to read this 400 slides, well, it takes a long time. So we had the worst of both worlds, content we couldn't really trust that was up to date, and a format that nobody really liked. And if our work with AI has told us one thing, is that structured data in the right place, correctly dated, correctly mapped, become a source of truth. And it's the backbone of any well-run businesses. So I keep on saying that to clients. Fabian, you also say that to clients. But we had a reality check saying that, well, basically our own internal knowledge kind of failed that test. So we had to fix it. And we had to fix it properly. So we started by defining, well, what does good look like? 4 things. Active, not passive. Something you do, not just something you read. Second, AI that makes it accessible. We have a lot of slides, a lot of documents, and we need to summarize them and making sure that we can restructure the slides to have something that we can learn from. Third, one place. There is just one place we have to look at it, always current, always the last updated version. And the last one, and it's also a very important and a good add-on, we wanted to see how everyone was able to progress, to have one place where we can give courses to people to help them grow in knowing how to do a Google Ads campaign, how to set up a Meta campaign, how to report on it, how to optimize it. So the obvious move would have been first to try to go buy a learning platform, an LMS, learning management system, and just learn about that yesterday. Well, that's the software companies that you can buy where you can track and host your training, right? Then we'll look at the price per seat and we open a code editor. No, just kidding. The reason why we were really not convinced with this type of tool is because, well, sure, you can host your training somewhere. You can see who's taking it. But this type of platform, they're not helping on authoring the courses. They're not helping on taking your current knowledge, where you have your slides, and see what part of the slides worth mentioning in a class and put that into the learning platform. And this is why we need it. Well, obviously, it takes time to take the full content of slides and put that on a learning management system, but it's exactly what AI is good at, right? Take a lot of content and being able to pieces and synthesize it for anyone to learn from it. So this is what we've done. Use AI to build a platform, and we name it CLICKTRUST Learning App. This is what it looks like. It's in production, it's live. And the promise is very simple. You have a document, a PDF, you take it, you drop it into the platform, and you get a structured and interactive course out of it. We're using it already now through CLICKTRUST, Isoar, every entities from the group. And we have people logging almost, let's say, every week into the platform. So what's the key insights? Well, obviously, we could have upload your PDF, make it smarter, make it prettier. It's not what we wanted. What we wanted to have is an AI inside the platform that is acting like a senior instructional designer. So it reads across all of the pages, it synthesizes, it reorganizes everything around what someone would actually need to be able to learn something. And so this one distinction is the most important one. It's what makes the difference between some slides that you read and a course that you can actually complete. What do we have as designer, instructional designer, inside our learning app? We have different type of cards. We have concept cards for key definitions. We have highlights to give critical warnings or tips. We have some scenarios where we explain a real workplace situation, and you have to go through. We have reflections from the slide that we can input. What are the experts, what they think about it, or they would phrase it. At the end of each of the module, because you have a lot of slides, long slides with different chapter, we have different module. At the end of each of the modules, we have the summary, some takeaways, and we also are able to do diagrams if there is any visual needed. But what is also really important and come up with the fact that we also wanted a platform where we can see people grow is that we have quizzes at the end of all of the takeaways, and we also have the possibility to put a certification exam, so you can go through all the class, do your quiz, make sure you understand what's there, and then take the final exam to pass and receive your certification. All of this is generated from one document, from the slides, from the Word document that we put into it. So very quickly, how does it look like? No, I think I would need a bit of help again, sorry. You'll see we entering it. You have all of the classes that are already, all of the courses that are already ready. You type the name of the new course you want to do. And here I just put old, can we say old already? Presentation of Fabian's Future of Search. You have all of the slides right there. Okay, fine by me. I want this to be a course. And so I'm just going to take the document and drop it down. And then you will see the magic that is happening start to happen. It goes through all of the content, start to authoring the course, and then you get back to this screen where you're able to look at all of the different cards that were generated from the content, and you can delete or update some of them. Here, for the sake of the presentation, I just took all of them. And the next step is then fine, all of the content is fine by me, create the quiz, create the test. And so I will be able again to review all of the different answers and question made. And I can assign these classes to specific profile and roles from the company. So all of the questions are approved, and then we just publish it to the library. And when you go into a library, well, you find it there. And everyone who is assigned to the class, and also other people, if they'd like to follow it, can open it, see the different cards, and test their knowledge. And then at first, when taking the video, I try to do it, and then I just click left and right, which give me the possibility to show you that sometimes you can fail the test, and you can review the material again to repass the quiz. So this is how it's been using in practice. So you have one document in, and you have a full multi-module course out in minutes. That used to take a lot of time. That used to take days of work, right? So the document I put was Fabian's one, but obviously we put all of our most recent processes. Everything is there now. And in fact, what I also like to do is to just put our internal AI governance. So now if you want to receive your personal access to Claude or your personal access to Markifact, you also need to pass a course. Make sure you do it properly, you use it properly, and then you receive your own license. Okay, so that was how we use it. But let's move now to the part that maybe is the most interesting for everyone. How did we build it? What's the making of? Well, the platform is vibe coded. Am I insulting all of you if I'm explaining what this is? Yes? Should I still do it? All right, so if you haven't heard about it, vibe coding is basically a human in plain language telling an AI what to build, right? So the human is telling what he wants, and the AI writes the actual code. And then by iterating, here we had 19 commits, you come up to the outcome that you want. So no traditional development. We haven't write ourselves any line of code. Everything was written by AI. But for me, the most important part here is that the big step forwards, the big leaps forwards, came from the fact that the person that was talking to the AI really knew what he wanted to have. So it came from product instinct, from knowing what you need for your team, for the use case that you're trying to solve. And so, for example, here, one of the big moments was like, well, we're trying to build something that is authoring course. We're not willing to have an app that is screenshotting things, right? So here, the human knew what to ask for, and the AI built it, which sounds like a fairy tale, right? So let me tell you where the fairy tale ends. And here it is. So it works on my screen is not really the same thing that it works in productions. So vibe coding gets you a working prototype, and it gets you there shockingly fast, right? For the one that have tried. But a prototype that's about to handle real user data, to be put on open internet, handle real logins, this is a completely different type of animal. And the gap between it works for me and it's safe for everyone, that gap is exactly where things go wrong. So the AI will happily build you something that looks finished, works perfectly for yourself on your computer in the demo, and quietly ships a list of things you really, really don't want in production. What is the actual list of our own use case? I'll try to explain each of them in the way that it had to be explained to me, very simply, because I didn't understand all of it. But here we go. Oh, sorry. The Gemini API key, so one of the parts of the building of the app where we use the AI to authoring the course, is done with Gemini, Google's AI, and we have a key for that. We're paying every token of it, right? This key was actually in the browser, which means that if you open the source code of the browser, you had access to it. So it looks like we would have, I don't know, put our credit card numbers at the back of our visit card and send it over to everyone. Everyone could use our API key to do whatever they would like with it. Second thing, security headers. So a website is meant to hand the browser a guest list, a place where we can load data, we can load images, and so on. And ours was basically empty, which means that any code that could have sneaks into the browsers could have run into it, which means that, for example, we could have captured the passwords of people. Third, we had a rate limiter. We had limits on how many times you can ask AI things. But we put that after we checked if people were allowed to be in. So basically, any people that wasn't checking in could have use and ask question as many times as they wanted to the AI without being limited by it. And the last one, when something broke, the report wasn't, oops, something went wrong. It was the full report. Every file, every tool, or everything was linked to each other and directly accessible from the error overview. So it's basically giving the floor plan of your house to a burglar, right? And the alarm code. So none of this is really obvious if you're not a developer. I couldn't have spotted them myself, but every single one of them is serious. Which brings me to the actual point of this talk. Vibe coding needs a human who reads code. So before anything goes into production, the code, when sent internally to the CTO, who actually knows code and was able to fix all of these issues. And this is basically the human in the loop in vibe coding. A real person that knows how code works and is able to stop before putting some risk out there. So if you have to take one sentence from this talk, take this one. Vibe coding gets you a prototype. A human who reads code gets you to production. Those two things are very different jobs. What does it look like now that it has been checked? Obviously, it has been built on Google Cloud. You have the learner platform right there that have access to Firebase with all of the data, images, courses that it needs to go through. But when it comes to using Gemini, we have everything on Cloud Run, which is basically giving access. So the API key is not in the browser anymore. It's on Cloud Run, and it's only accessed. Gemini is only accessed going through Cloud Run and now onto the browser. So where is it today? It's in production on Google Cloud. Everyone is able to use it. We have certification leaderboards, course, quizzes. And as I said, we also use it for our own AI internal governance. You don't have your own access if you don't pass the class. And concretely, if we go back to the first example I gave you, what does that change? Well, we go on onboarding from, well, read this 500 slides, 200 slides, to here we have 4 modules, go through it, pass the certifications. We have one source of truth, one place where we have all of the most updated version of everything. And we also have a very clear view on who's able to follow what and what is the next steps for someone to grow in learning how to do stuff. So here, the takeaway. Well, you don't really need to be a developer to be able to build something with AI, but you need two things. First, you really need to know your problem. Very good. Because you're going to be the one that is going to talk to AI. AI can basically build whatever you want, but if you don't know what is your problem and what you're trying to solve, you're not going to build something that is useful for you. And the second one is that you need to keep that human in the loop who's actually able to understand code and make sure that everything that you've built and you're planning on putting on production is safe and done properly. Which brings me to you, because I only talk about what we've built for ourselves, right? So here's what we wanted to give. Yeah, so I shouldn't be in front of it then. The opportunity for you guys to also log in into the platform, to have your own access. So on this small QR code, you'll see it's a very small form, 3 fields, not more than that, so that we can get your email address and we're able to give you access for that. For now, it's free. Right? We'll see if it goes and stays like that. Thank you. Happy to take questions if you have any.
There's a question over there, and the microphone is just behind you.
Thanks for the presentation. I was just wondering if you also did like a security check with the AI. So you ask him to. Yeah, sorry.
So what's interesting is that this was built before Mythos and Fable came out. And so now the narrative, again, we have to update the slides. Now make sure that your human is also controlled by... So yeah, we are running these checks on top of it as well, which is interesting because, yeah, you build something that's got errors inside, which humans are supposed to stop. But then now the situation that we're in is that every single bank in Belgium is trying to gear up their security thanks to Mythos and Fable exposing errors. So yeah, we're going around in circles.
Okay.
More questions? Right. So this tool, like I mentioned, I mean, all the courses which are inside, which are using for onboarding our analysts, are available to a client version and to also non-client version, future client, always welcome, version that you can all scan. So you'll basically receive an email on the email that you reply. You'll receive an invitation and you'll receive an update of every single course that we push in there. And so courses are created really quickly. And so this gives you basically free access to CLICKTRUST Academy. So anyway, thank you very much for your attention. Very nice having you. I hope you enjoyed the day and that there was some interesting learnings coming out of that. Feel free to stick around because we have the drinks coming up just now and we're available for any questions that you might have. Thank you very much.